had someone tell me, they said, your poetry always gives me such hope.
Yeah.
And I went, that's really interesting because so much of my poetry is written from a place where I'm searching for it.
Adam Roa is a globally known poet, speaker, and coach whose viral messages and inner work guidance help millions reconnect to purpose, love, and authentic living.
Learning how to notice the patterns of your behavior and your emotions and your thoughts, that's a skill that if you can develop will unlock infinite growth in your life.
How do you avoid the trap of monotony in relationships, thinking that it's going to last forever?
Do you currently know your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband, your wife, do you know their goals for 2026? Do you know the big dream that scares them? Do you know if there's a part of them that they're curious about exploring? Do you know if there's a part of them that feels unfulfilled? Do you know these aspects? Because the funny thing is,
do you think that you could ever really, really know yourself?
There's always more to discover. You can go from being primarily unconscious, meaning you are not aware of it. And so to become conscious is to become aware of, why do I have a short temper? Why do I lean into numbing myself? Why do I have avoidant tendencies? All of these different things. To understand why you are the way you are is to become more conscious. But
people are using AI more and more these days, asking it questions and about relationships and how to navigate different scenarios. Do you think that's yay or nay?
I'm a yay. The quality of your life will be in direct correlation to the quality of your questions. When I'm playing with concepts of something that I find can be really useful, I will pressure test it with AI and I will prompt it and I will say, hey, be a skeptic of my idea. And then I'll present my idea and let it challenge it.
Yeah, and I think it's a good way to use AI, and that's the way that people aren't using it. We're using it as, tell me how I'm right.
And by the way, that's how people are moving through the world. Not many people are coming to their friends and saying, hey, I just had a fight with my partner and I want you to take their side in this and reflect back to me how I might be blind. People are using AI to...
Why are these boss babe women building up these huge empires and not being able to find men?
Every time I talk about this, it can be very triggering, and I understand why. So my mom and that generation of women fought for equality. Women were not equal citizens till very recently. And so my generation, I feel, is really the first one that was given the opportunity to truly go out and build their own thing and be the CEO and be the boss babe. Before that, sexism and suppression, repression, all of that stuff was very, very prevalent, right? And so...
You're already here. You might as well subscribe before we start. Or if you're already subscribed, hit that like button.
This is the Sacred Thomas Podcast.
Part 2, sitting down with Adam Roa.
Yeah, what's up, bro?
What's up, dude? It's been over a year since we last spoke.
Mm-hmm. It's been over a year since I've been in Austin.
Yeah, man. How's it feel to be back?
Well, right now, cedar fever is getting me. There's these cedar trees and I'm sneezing every 5 minutes. So I'll do my best to hold that in. But it's also good to see old friends, have great conversations. Being here reminds me of just the importance of community.
Yeah. Awesome, man. What's changed?
Bro, what hasn't changed?
Yeah. I feel like I'm a different person in a year.
That's
I know
what
you definitely have.
A year and a half. And I feel we're all changing so rapidly internally, but also that's a reflection of just how rapidly everything's changing externally. The world looks crazy right now, to be honest. It's you can't look in a single direction without there being some sort of tension, amplification, fighting, people trying to make it into sides. It's an intense time. And I think that is creating a lot of internal recalibrations for people.
100%. I actually was in Southeast Asia for almost 3 weeks. I just got back 5 days ago.
From where?
I was in Thailand and then Vietnam.
Okay.
So I've been to Thailand before, but I had never gone to Vietnam. Okay. And I'm thinking about moving for a little bit, you know?
Yeah, okay.
But the reason I even bring that up is I was very removed from what's been going on while I was out there. I mean, I saw things, but I wasn't as locked in as I am now, and you come back, and then it's the social media floods, and there's just so much going on, and I just feel like a level of anxiety being back that I did not feel over there.
Is it something you just feel in your body? You know what I mean? It's just you're here, and it's I just feel a little bit more tense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in my body. It's in my mind. It's the conversations I'm having with people.
Yeah.
It's there. So.
And you're thinking about moving to Thailand or Vietnam?
Vietnam.
Okay. You loved Vietnam, huh?
I loved Vietnam.
I went when I was 21 or 22.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's been a long time, but I went with a friend of mine who was Vietnamese.
Yeah.
And we lived with his aunties and uncles for a part of it. Okay. So you know how they always have the storefronts on the bottom and then the houses are right on top of the storefronts. Mm-hmm. So we lived up above the storefront. And then, you know, you spend the nights down at the storefront and sitting out on this sidewalk and playing cards and that sort of thing. And so I got to really feel the culture there, and it was really beautiful.
That's awesome. Wait, what city were you in?
Da Nang.
Okay, that's the city I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's specifically where I'm like, if I were to move here, it would be Da Nang. Mm-hmm. I don't know how it was back then, but it reminds me a lot of Miami in terms of the aesthetic, but the way that the city is not like Miami at all. It's super peaceful. It's very chill. But also 30 minutes down the road, you see the mountains.
Yeah. I mean, that was 20 years ago. I imagine it's very different.
Yeah.
But I think you're speaking to something that I relate to, because I was telling you before we started recording, I'm going to go spend 2 months in Vienna, Austria, which is a total wild card of anywhere I thought I'd spend time, because I'm interested in potentially moving there. And the reason is just because when I was there, it just felt good. Yeah. My girlfriend and I both were saying to each other, I don't know, it just, my body, like my nervous system relaxes here in a way that I can't put into words. I just feel as if it's an exhale. My body can relax. Mm-hmm. And I think that not needing the logical reasons for why to move somewhere and just starting to listen to the somatics of the body as it says, this is a place to be, this feels good, is important.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, me and you are going through something similar, except for you've been nomadic. I've been very planted. So I say that I would move there, but it's a really, really big deal. I've never done anything like that. So.
Bro, you would have to redo this whole beautiful studio.
Yeah, I'd have a lot of logistic things to figure out. But,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's an option.
Yeah.
But so I keep getting asked the question about purpose over and over and over and over again. And actually someone that I didn't actually meet up with them, but we'd been following each other for a while. Our schedules didn't line up, but I was supposed to meet up with somebody in Vietnam. And they asked me the question, like, how did you find your purpose? You know, I feel like you've built a big platform and you're helping a lot of people. And the way that I explained it was I just told the story of what happened with me. And we dove into it a little bit on the last podcast about purpose. But if somebody asks you the question about purpose or just a deeper meaning in their life, how do you direct people towards that?
Well, I think when we talk about purpose, one of the biggest things that people get tripped up on is thinking that they're supposed to know. That's the part that for me is the flaw in the question itself. I think that purpose is a process of discovery. To be in my purpose is an in the moment thing where right now I'm living my purpose. This month, I feel like I'm living my purpose, but next month I might not feel like that way, right? And that feeling of purpose is tied into a lot of other feelings, right? Fulfillment, enjoyment. So there are a lot of these things that come into, wow, I feel like I'm living a purposeful life, being of service, these aspects. And it's not a forever thing. At one moment, I may feel like I'm not living my purpose anymore, even though it's the same thing I've been doing the previous 20 years of my life. But all that's telling me is that something has shifted in my own evolution. Mm-hmm. And I think that if we see purpose as more of a compass rather than, oh, I figured it out. as if it's the answer. It's actually just a guiding principle. I think that that's a much healthier way to approach it.
Okay. So if we use it as a guiding principle and someone's completely lost and they're working a dead end job and they have no idea, like they don't even know what the compass feels like. How do you begin to start that journey towards something that feels more aligned?
I think I follow the love. And by love, I mean the things that I love, the people that I love, the places that I love. And love in a felt experience, when it's not tied to a person, comes in the form of inspiration. So when I have that moment of love for something, it comes as inspiration. And there's that moment where I feel a rush. I feel that flood of energy. And suddenly I want to move in a direction, right? Right now I'm exploring turning my poetry into music using AI and playing with that. I started 4 days ago.
Okay.
4 days ago. But my friend who I used to produce music with, so he's a real producer, he said, bro, your talents align really well with using AI for this, because I always got hung up on the technical engineering aspects. And he knows those and he knows me. And he said, this will let you bypass some of that and get into the creative elements of music production that you're really good at. And so I said, sure, let me try it. For 4 days now, I just can't stop. I'm so in it. I absolutely love it. And now, does that mean I need to go and turn it into my quote unquote purpose? Do I need to create a career or a business out of it? No, not necessarily. But the fact that I have that rush of inspiration in a direction is my purpose. My only purpose in life, I feel, is to follow that. And it will bring with it a lot of other variables like we talked about. I don't know anyone who feels they're living a purposeful life if they're not being of service. Even if that service is just to their family, to their kids, to their wife, their husband. But that inspiration, which also we need to follow our curiosity to find the inspiration. To me, that's the soul scavenger hunt of life. I think that there are clues by which we get guided through life, and following the clues is really our purpose.
Right. It's so funny that you are using AI or experimenting with AI in music. I did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And it did last like a couple of days. But my sister, she's a singer. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I can help her write a song. I just wanted to do something. So I actually have never written a song before. So I used AI to help me write the song based off of a story that I was telling. And then I used it to make the music. And she didn't like it. But after that, I'm like, you know what? Let me talk about my own story. And it was really interesting what it spit out. It was actually really, it was awesome. But yeah, it was just something I was just playing around with. But
right. And I feel that element of curiosity just reminds me. So let's say that you're God. Okay. You are God, and you are trying to make sure that Adam finds his purpose and lives his most fulfilling, joyful life, right? What is the way that you would actually guide me? I think the way that you would guide me is through those feelings of love. The places that I feel drawn to, the things that I feel curious about, the conversations that inspire me in a particular direction. We think about love so often just from a lens of romantic interaction, but to fall in love with making music is an indicator of something. And if you are God and you just need to make sure that Adam goes to Vietnam and meets this person and has this conversation and then comes back and is more inclined to make certain decisions, you guide that with those little inner callings of inspiration, motivation, love, curiosity. And yet so few people follow those. I think the reason why people find themselves unhappy and lost is because they stopped following those a long time ago. And that's where we wind up in these places where we feel as though we're way off track and completely unhappy.
Yeah, but it's also because we're so disconnected from what that feeling actually is, or our bodies in general, right? You could be saying all of what you just said, and it's not even going to compute in their mind. Like, how do I feel this? Like, I don't feel anything.
Well, for people who'd say they don't feel anything, that's a great place to be of self-awareness, because you've gotten to a place where you don't feel anything from years of suppression, right? Kids feel. That's all they do. That's what they do. So if you say, I don't feel anything, I feel numb, then I know that at some point you started suppressing your feelings and potentially numbing yourself through the use of drugs, alcohol, porn, big pharma, whatever it is, right?
Scrolling.
Yeah, scrolling, doom scrolling, and you've hijacked your feelings and you've outsourced them. So the first step for someone who says that they really don't feel is, okay, let's help you feel again. First, let's identify the ways in which you're trying not to feel. Let's identify the habits and behaviors that you have used to check out of your feelings. Then let's create safe containers for you to actually go in and feel. Right? What does that look like? It might be therapy. It might be a coach. It might be workshops. It might be plant medicine ceremonies, but someplace that you feel safe to begin to feel again. And that doesn't have to be these huge cathartic ceremonies. It could actually look like, okay, I'm going to sit for 5 minutes each day and I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to have my phone off, out of the room, and I'm just going to sit, close my eyes and feel. And I'm going to actually just allow that to happen. And for some people, that's terrifying. And so for some of you who think that's not a big step, if you've met someone who has for 30 years numbed out and suppressed, the idea of just sitting still for 5 minutes and letting themselves really feel what's under the surface, terrifying.
Yeah.
And I went over New Year's, I did my first darkness retreat. Are you familiar with these?
Yeah. I've never done one, but I'm familiar with it.
I did 5 full days in complete darkness and silence. So they put me in a room and they brought food once a day, but there's no light. You see absolutely no light at all, 0 for 5 days. And you're by yourself in this room. And I can tell you that what comes up is stuff that you don't normally see. And so just sitting in stillness, you're going to see the things that you don't normally see. And I think that that's a great starting place. And for people who really don't feel like they feel, that's a simple starting place.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But sitting in a room for 5 days in complete darkness, what came up?
Well,
because that sounds terrifying.
It was intense. It was intense. I guess the way that I describe the experience and what I got out of it is, let's say you have 100,000 thoughts in a day, okay? Most of your thoughts, 99,000 of them are thoughts that are the result of the input. So conversations you're having with people, things that you see or hear, taste, like that's what drives 99,000 of your 100,000 thoughts. But there's 1,000 thoughts that are sort of this intrinsic emerging just deep from within you. But because they're mixed with 99,000 other ones, they're like diluted. You don't really see them. When you remove the 99,000, all you're left with is those 1,000. And you see them so clearly. And so for me, I was able to see how much shame and guilt and self-judgment I was harnessing that I would not have told you was a part of my experience. But I saw it so clearly. And by the end of 5 days of just being in a room with those thoughts, I was exhausted. And so I was able to also see how much of my energy was being drained by thoughts that I wasn't even aware that I was really having. And so I made a commitment to myself, no more. The shame, the guilt, the self-judgment. As someone who's as authentic as I feel myself to be, it's just a deeper layer of authenticity and self-acceptance that I'm now working on integrating.
I mean, do you mind sharing a thought of shame or guilt that you were dealing with that came up?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a vulnerable one, right? So I'm in a relationship.
Yeah.
I've been dating a woman for over a year now. And one of the things that I've struggled with in relationship is how can I be my most charismatic, magnetic, sexy, powerful self while in relationship? I feel that I've been able to figure that out single, and I know how to move through the world and feel that. But in every relationship that I've ever been in, somehow I dim while I'm in relationship. And that has bothered me. It's been something I've wanted to figure out. And so a couple months ago, I was in London. I was at this sauna cold plunge community thing. And this woman walks in and sits next to me who's just beautiful. So she's absolutely beautiful. I'm not going to talk to her, right? Do a cold plunge. We have a break before the next round. And I need to go get a drink. I go to get a drink. She's the only one standing there. She's right there by herself as I'm walking up. I go, of course. All right. Oh, I can't. I'm not going to talk to her. I'm not going to talk to her. And I contracted. And it reminded me of my insecure teenage boy self. But the interesting thing is, that's not me when I'm single. When I'm single, I would have no problem talking to her. And not even because I need to get her number, not because I need to sleep with her, not because anything's necessarily going to happen, but I just am more free. And then because I'm in a relationship, suddenly this I'm going to do something wrong comes up. Just talking to her, wrong. Don't do it. Close down. And there's a shame and guilt. And so imagine me being in the dark with nothing around for 5 days, feeling guilt and judging myself for something that I didn't even do.
Wow.
I didn't speak to her. It was just a desire to speak to her. And I shamed myself for 5 days about this thing. And that's one example. And I think that what it revealed to me was just how much I've been draining my own life force energy and shaming and guilting myself for things that I haven't even done.
Yeah.
Just thoughts. And the craziest part is my girlfriend wouldn't care. She doesn't care at all.
Yeah.
She'd say, in fact, go ahead, flirt. I don't care. And so it's all self-created. And that's an example of one of the things that I really got to see up close.
That's so interesting. So
I can see your wheels turning.
yeah. Well, I mean, because that's a scenario that I think we're conditioned to feel shame from as a man. And he's trying to pinpoint where it comes from. But yeah, just simply talking to someone, you're absolutely not doing anything wrong. So,
and I think that there's this when I analyzed it, right? If I was not attracted to her, I wouldn't feel guilt. It's the fact that I'm attracted to this woman that now I feel guilty if I'm in a relationship talking to the woman. And the interesting aspect around that is even when I'm single, I've never had the go out to a bar or a restaurant and pick up a woman and go home with her. I've literally never done that. And so talking to this woman at the cold plunge is not going to lead to anything. That's not my MO. And yet at the same time, just the fact that I'm attracted is what contracted me. That's where the guilt lies in. But as a man, I actually want to be in healthy relationship with my sexual energy, with my attraction, with my flirtation, to be able to own it and play with it and harness it in a healthy and constructive way. And so to see that fine line and notice that what that caused me to do, in the past at least, was blame the relationship. Suddenly I would create stories. This relationship's wrong because I don't feel confident. I feel like I have to dim my light. I feel like I'm a smaller version of myself in this relationship. I feel like I'm not free in relationship. All of those things, I would previously be able to point to the relationship and say, I think this is wrong because of that. But now that I'm in a relationship that I don't have those I can't use the relationship as a scapegoat. Suddenly I have to face off with the reality of I'm the one doing that. It's entirely my self-creation to dim my light and play small and become less magnetic or charismatic. And then now I go, okay, well, where's that stemming from? What's that coming from? And to your point, I do think for a lot of us men, there is so much shame around sexual desire that it's almost unclear where are the safe spaces for us to explore that.
The clouds are muddy right now. It's you want us to come up and talk to you at the gym. You don't want us to come and talk to you at the gym. We want to look pretty, but you don't want us to say anything. Why aren't guys saying anything? So we're getting mixed signals from a lot of different directions. So it's like, yeah, how do you decipher? But you did say something. You said that your girlfriend wouldn't care. I know you said it's all been internal. But obviously, it sounds like you've also been in relationships where maybe a girlfriend would care. So how much of that is actually true that you were trying to protect something or protect yourself from starting a fight or something like that, rather than it's just you internally suppressing yourself?
Well, that's a huge distinction that you just said, right? To try and not cause a fight. There are guys laughing right now. We all know, we all know that one. Just okay. What I'm trying to do now.
Listen, I know a lot of girls who, like, say you both were there and you were having a conversation at a bar with a random girl.
Yeah.
And it's a strictly platonic conversation. There is a girlfriend out there that's staring across the room with the death eyes, making you feel like you did something wrong.
Correct.
So how do you juggle that?
Right. And I will say this works the other direction too, for all the women that are listening to this. Like, there are men who you talk to another dude and they are on your ass, and it goes both directions. What I realized, I was in a relationship where there was so much distrust of the masculine that got projected onto me, that I started to question myself a lot, because suddenly I'm navigating conversation and communication through the lens of how do I not cause a fight? How do I not trigger her insecurities in this way? And while I do think it's important to understand the wounds of your partner and to navigate with sensitivity, if you are constantly walking on eggshells, eventually you are living in inauthenticity. It's impossible to be authentic if you are constantly worried that you're going to cause a fight. And so my commitment after that relationship was I'm never again going to put myself in a position where I am afraid to be authentic. And listen, I know some of the things that I might say or do will upset my partner. Absolutely. But a value of mine is the ability to just communicate openly. And so to now be in this relationship, I had this moment to highlight what I'm saying. I had this moment where I said to her, okay, how do I say this in a way that's not gonna, and I went, wait a second, what am I doing? I can just say it. And it was a chance to see how much of the old hurt I was carrying about just being honest and then having that get turned around on me. And so now I can speak very freely And there may be some moments of upset, but the default programming is, I know that you're a good man and you're not coming from a bad place. And so I'm going to receive it from that reality first. And if it upsets me, we'll talk about it in the reality in which you're still a good person, as opposed to, I don't trust you. I'm not sure if you're in integrity, and I'm constantly going to have that lens first. And that's a major difference.
Yeah. So trust is huge.
Trust is everything.
It's everything. Yeah.
Trust is everything. And we live in a world where everyone has been hurt by the opposite sex. Yeah. Men have been hurt by women. Women have been hurt by men. Men have been hurt by men. Women have been hurt by women. And so we all have reasons why we could choose not to trust. But I do think that entering into a romantic partnership with the lens, this person can't be trusted, as the starting point, it's very, very difficult. Very, very difficult to work out of that.
Yeah. What do you think so many women are tired of in dating, even when they want love?
What do I think women are tired of in dating, even though they want love?
It seems like in general, there's just, I don't know how much you're on social media or if you're just posting and getting off.
I haven't posted anything this whole year because I've been off of it.
Okay.
Pretty much entirely, actually, for the first time in 13 years.
Yeah.
But I pop on to kind of see the temperature of things. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it seems like you spoke to, there's a lot of distrust when it comes to relationships. And it seems that women are just openly speaking that they're tired of men and men suck, but they still want love. So what do you think is driving that?
I think love is why we're here. I really do. I was saying it doesn't have to be love just for romantic love with the person, but I really think that feeling of, I love what I do. I love my life. I love my friends. I love my kids. I love my spouse. I love my boyfriend, my girl. Like, love is why we're here. Yeah. And so because I believe that, I also believe that it is sort of the intrinsic driving force. It's the magnet that draws us. It's the thing that draws us through curiosity and inspiration. It's the thing that draws us to talk to a certain person. It's the thing that draws us to forgive certain people, you know? It's the pull. And so there are people who fight the current of the river, and that's because they're scared of where it leads. And so if you've been hurt, as everybody has, to give your heart to someone again, to open up vulnerably again, is incredibly scary. It is, I don't know if there's anything scarier than to be willing to truly merge with someone at that deep love level, knowing that they may hurt you, knowing that it may not work out the way you want it to. Every single relationship, every single one is a trust fall. And you are hoping that this person is going to treat your heart as sacred. Whether they do or not is a whole different thing that you can't actually control. And so I think the fundamentals underneath that are, we need to learn how to hold our own hearts so that if the person winds up not holding it with us, we still got it. And we know we'll be okay. But what I come back to more often than not is that I've never regretted falling in love. Ever. If I ever did, it was only because I was still in the heartbreak and wishing I wasn't. But truly, on the other side of it, I have never regretted falling in love, no matter how much it hurt. I'm grateful for every single one of those.
I agree. And what I've noticed is that people are scared of the hurt when it comes to heartbreak, but people keep repeating the same things over and over again. And I like to say that different person, same problem is a cause for introspection. I'm assuming you believe the same.
Yeah, I think that the point of a breakup is to take the lessons and leave the baggage. So if we want to get a bit esoteric a little bit, there's a frequency match to you and I that's caused us to be in the same reality, shared room, having this conversation. If my content didn't resonate with you, probably never have me on the podcast, definitely not a second time, right? And so there is resonance here. Now, if we are not in resonance, we just naturally don't collaborate, coordinate. We don't cooperate. We just try and avoid each other, right? Now, in romantic relationship, you are vibrationally, energetically going to attract a certain person. And you are going to both grow and evolve in that relationship. And a breakup happens most of the time because you've just grown in different directions, right? That's one of the biggest things. If you're not consciously trying to grow in the same direction, or if your paths just take you in opposite ways, you grow apart. Mm-hmm. Now, if you do not take the lessons from the breakup and what happened, you will stay in the same vibration. If you are meeting someone at frequency 100.1 and you break up, you're still at 100.1. So learning the lessons from that let you go to 100.2 and 100.3 and 100.4. And then when you get to 100.4, you're now attracting someone that's 100.4. But if you go through the breakup, you blame the other person, say it's entirely their fault, they cheated, they were an asshole, they were a narcissist, whatever it is, you are not taking any accountability, you're not taking the opportunity for introspection, you're not learning, you're not evolving, you stay at 100.1, which means your next relationship is still going to be someone that's at 100.1. And so the universe is saying, hey, you didn't learn the lesson, so therefore we're going to give you the same test. And you go through the same thing again. And hopefully that time you integrate the lessons. You learn. You say, wow, here's where I could have shown up differently. Here's what I didn't see about my own behavior. Here's where I didn't hold the space for them in the way that they needed. Here's the ways in which I thought I was further along than I was, et cetera, et cetera. And then that evolution allows you to hit that 100.4. And here's the beautiful thing. At 100.4, you're no longer attracted to 100.1. You're really not attracted to the same people. You don't have to worry about falling into those same relationships because just naturally, doesn't interest you anymore. And I think that is how we break these cycles that so many people get caught in over and over and over again. You have to leave the baggage and you have to integrate the lessons.
What do you think the lesson is in the situation where that person is a cheating narcissist and it's all their fault?
Well, I think that if someone is sitting, you're talking about for the person who's pointing the finger.
Yeah, exactly. So what's the lesson for you when you're like, no, it's their fault. They cheated. They're the narcissist. What's the lesson for me?
One of my favorite quotes is from the book, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, which is, we accept the love we think we deserve. And so what part of you was attracted to a narcissist? What part of you was attracted to someone who mistreated you, who didn't actually care about you and your feelings and your goals and your hopes and your dreams? Now, that is assuming they're actually a narcissist. What I will say is that the vast majority of people who are pointing the finger and saying that person was a narcissist, statistically impossible.
Yeah.
Literally, it seems like everyone who's gone through a breakup is saying, oh, they were a narcissist. Statistically impossible. The person may not agree with you. The person may not give you what you want. The person may be more prioritized towards what they want for their lives than what you want for yours. Absolutely. It doesn't make them a narcissist. And so, that's just a disclaimer that people should know. Most of the time, the person's not a narcissist. It just wasn't a good match.
Right. Yeah. And I've had experience saying that exact same thing. Hey, maybe you can look inward and see why you chose that person. And people get mad at me when I say it.
Absolutely. It's confronting.
Yeah.
It's confronting. But also, I think a big part of it is people don't know how to do the introspective work.
Yeah.
People actually, when you say, take a good look inside and see how you co-created that breakup.
Yeah.
Okay. How? Most people don't know how to do that. And I think that learning how to become introspective, learning how to notice the patterns of your behavior and your emotions and your thoughts, that's a skill that if you can develop will unlock infinite growth in your life.
How do you dive into learning that?
Well, you need a mirror. So we can't see the label from inside the bottle. We are not able to see aspects of ourselves without a mirror. And usually the therapist, the coach, the partner, that's a mirror. That's an obvious mirror. But how can we create mirrors on our own? One of my favorite is journaling. Journaling. Just allowing yourself to write out what's going on internally forces you to take something that can be a cycle and make non-linear, non-logical sense. And the moment you have to write it, you have to put one letter in front of the other. And so it forces linearity. And then if you go back and read it, suddenly you're getting to observe it in such a different way. I had this in a huge way because my new book, Crazy Love, this is an assortment of my poetry and actual journal entries that I've kept for the last 10 years, all around love and relationships. To write it, I flew to Spain. I was in the middle of nowhere by myself, and I brought every journal I'd kept since 2007, and I began reading them chronologically and multiple times. And I joke that it was as if I was reading a very long book and I was tired of the main character by page 3. So I saw myself whining and complaining and being heartbroken about the same things for over a decade. It was the same topics. It was the same shit over and over and over again. And that level of a mirror, the ability to see it from over here and go, wow, bro, no more, allowed me to break out of the pattern. And so journaling is just one example. Creativity, writing poetry, writing music, that sort of stuff is a healing modality. And I believe it's so important.
Absolutely. And that, journaling can give you so much more power back without saying, oh, I can't afford a therapist or a coach, or I don't have anybody in my life that I trust. But when you explain it like that, that is a huge tool. So I want to actually dive into some of your posts on social media because you have some interesting stuff. And this stood out to me.
Okay, let's do it.
You said in one of your poems, you say death amplifies beauty. What does that mean to you?
If all of this lasted forever, it would become meaningless. It is the fact that this life is temporary that gives it its meaning. It's the fact that the relationship might not last forever that makes it so much more powerful. Literally, we idealize and dream about the idea of eternal love and immortality and whatever. But I can tell you, as someone who's been in a 10-year relationship in my past, that it becomes easy to take it for granted. We thought that our relationship was going to last for the rest of our lives. And so what did that do? It caused us to take it for granted, not in the way of not appreciating each other, but just in the way of, oh, we don't have to water the garden because the garden's never going to die. And I think when you realize if you don't water something, it will die, that changes your relationship to it. When I know that my dog, who is 16 years old, I don't know if when I have her, because I co-parent her, when I have her, if that might be the last time. And I can tell you the depth that brings me every single time, knowing it might be the last. And I think that that's what we hear so many people speak to about near-death experiences is this learning about how this life could be taken away. But that applies to each and every moment. This moment we're having right now, bro, this moment's dying for the next moment to be born. This conversation, how deeply can we feel this conversation? Because we may never have this opportunity again to sit down and just exchange ideas and information and drop in together. And the more we realize that death, the literal death, but also the metaphorical death of every moment exists to give meaning to the moments we have, I think the more it allows us to really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Now, you brought up relationships. How do you avoid the trap of monotony in relationships, thinking that it's going to last forever? You know, you see it all the time that people get in relationships and then it's almost like it just becomes monotonous, and in so many words, the love dies or something like that happens.
Well, what I can say is that it's human nature, right? Anything that becomes routine, you kind of just start to become accustomed to. It's a very beneficial way that our brain conserves energy and thinking power. I don't have to think about this thing. I just know what it does and I know what it is. But the key is that awareness gives us choice. I want everyone to really hear that. Awareness gives us choice. And so the first step is we have to become aware. And what I mean by that is, for me, my 10-year relationship ended. And after it was over, I got to see all the ways in which I didn't think it would ever end and the ways in which that affected my behavior. One way that people talk about this is keep dating your husband or your wife. Keep dating, even when you've been married for 10 years. And what that's really saying is keep watering the garden. Keep investing in it as if it's new. Keep trying to discover each other anew. And because I've had the experience of not doing that and seeing that cause a 10-year relationship to end, I have the awareness now that I didn't have before. And maybe some people don't need a 10-year relationship to end. They can just hear a podcast like this and they go, oh, okay, it really sticks. But for a lot of people, they have to experience the monotony. They have to experience seeing themselves take it for granted in order to actually learn the lesson. And hopefully they can avoid that. But for me, that's the thing, is the awareness gives me choice. And now that I know it's possible, I've experienced it, I can choose something different. I can be aware that it's happening. If you don't even know that it's happening, how can you spot it? Right? And so having that reference point is incredibly important. And so that's why in conversations like these, I like to give some real examples of, well, what does it mean to be in monotony? Right? How would you know? Okay, well, do you currently know your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband, your wife, do you know their goals for 2026? Do you know the big dream that scares them that they currently have? Do you know if there's a part of them that they're curious about exploring? Do you know if there's a part of them that feels unfulfilled? Do you know these aspects? Because the funny thing is, they may not have been that person a year ago. We just talked about it. It's been 1.5 years since we've seen each other. Things have changed. I know that I have different beliefs than I had before. I know I have some that I've refined and deepened. I have some that I've changed. I have different relationships to faith. I have different relationships to romantic relationship than I had the last time we had this conversation. If I was still with the same woman as then, and I wasn't sharing that evolution, I'm not at the leading edge of who I am. And that's an example of what it means to be in monotony. It means that you're both not at the leading edge of who you are while in relationship.
This makes me think of, I have a couple friends that I've had since high school. And what is that? Dude, it's over 15 years. And I've never had to think about it deeply or think about monotony or anything, but we're just tight as ever. So it's like, what's there? And I think you see that more common in friendships than in relationships. It's like, what's there in friendships that it's so much harder to grasp within a relationship with somebody? Is it because it's not as deep or connected, but it feels deep in a different way, you know?
It's because your friends don't ever become routine, right? Your friends don't become the person who you are making breakfast with and paying the bills with and cleaning the house with and going to bed with. There's a level of separation that will create novelty. Because even if you see them every week, it's like, bro, tell me about your week, right? But your partner, you see every day in routine. And it's the routine that turns it into something that's unconscious. You make the assumption, well, we're with each other every single day, so I know what's going on in their life. They know what's going on in my life. Versus if I know people, for example, that are married that for decades have slept in separate rooms. And that, for them, keeps the spark alive in a lot of different ways. Just even the biochemistry, biomimicry, where your physical body gets its own space and gets to be its own person every night when it goes to sleep and isn't co-regulating. And then they come back together every morning. And I know people who've been in relationship that's the idea of the man cave, right? Or whatever that is, the bachelorette cave. I don't know what they call those. But the point is, what is that about? That is where they can go and disconnect and be themselves, quote unquote, outside of the relationship and then come back together. It's like, I play video games, I watch sports, I drink beer, I play pool, the archetypes or stereotypes. And so these are ways in which we try and keep our sovereignty. But I think that over time, especially you have kids and now you're parents and your mom and dad and your entire world is revolving around the kids. And there's the opportunity to lose the individuality that you each had to start with, right? Yeah. When you start dating someone, you want to know about them. Tell me about growing up. Where did you grow up? How did you grow up? Tell me about brothers, sisters, whatever. But at a certain point, it merges so much that you forget that you can still learn about your partner.
So you say with kids, it merges a lot more. What do you mean by that?
I don't have kids yet, right? But we have mutual friend Preston Smiles. And
yeah.
I talk to all my friends who have kids, and it's like they become your worldview. You know, everything that you do is through the lens of providing for your family as a man, especially. It's like, okay, what am I doing in business? Let me get my shit together. Can I do this? I can't do that. I got to be there for my family. How do I show up as a man, as a patriarch in this family unit? And when you merge in that way as parents, I think it gives you a shared goal. But then that means that you're also putting so much of your mental, emotional, spiritual energy in the same place, and you forget about what you each have going on as individuals outside of the role of parent. Right?
Yeah.
And so to me, that's so I'll tell you one way that I combat this in my current relationship.
Okay.
We have a Sunday check-in, and sometimes we miss them, I'll be honest. But for example, we did it on Tuesday this week because we'd missed it on Sunday. But on a Sunday check-in, we have a list of questions that we go through and we ask each other. Same questions. Just, hey, how did I show up for you this week that made you feel really seen? What's something about this week that really drained your energy? What's something that you're looking forward to next week, or a goal that you have for next week? These sorts of questions that force us to just sit and see the individual in front of us without the assumption that we already know.
It's interesting. I've had a past partner try to get us to do that in the past.
Yeah.
And I think other guys can relate to this. I I'm not in a relationship right now to test it again. And I think I'd look at it a little bit differently, but it's felt like another thing to do.
100%.
How does it something that, I mean, it seems like you may look forward to it.
No.
Okay.
No. I'll be honest, I don't.
You don't? Okay.
No. It feels,
so talk into
there's
that.
a lot of times that it feels like another thing to do.
Okay.
It feels like another thing to do, but show me where you spend your money and your time, and I'll tell you what your priorities are. And so my priority is this woman. My priority is this relationship. And so my time gets to be invested into the relationship. I have absolutely no problem setting up 30 minutes. It doesn't even have to be that long, but like 30 minutes to outline my next week, what I want to accomplish, a to-do list, right? How is it a problem to do that for my relationship? And so I think that for most people, that idea that it feels like something to do, which I have as well, it's a great time to reality check and go, hey, is it a priority for you? Because the moment that you don't want to invest the time in strengthening the relationship, it may be time for you to get out of it. You may not be in a relationship that you want to be in anymore. And I am not someone to flippantly say that of just, oh, okay, I don't want to invest in this relationship, I'm out. But there's a real problem when you no longer actually want to keep building your relationship, right? And we go through seasons, but it's the same thing with your business. Bro, if you told me that I really hate this podcast, man, I just don't want to put any time or energy into it, I'd say, okay, take a break. Take a break, slow down. We'd explore it, but you're just forcing yourself to do something. So similarly with a relationship, you may not take a break from the relationship, but you can create ways in which you go, okay, I need to find my joy inside of this relationship again. But the only way you're going to do that is honesty, self-reflection, and putting the time in.
That makes sense. But what would be a healthy way to take a break or find yourself within a relationship? I mean, I know obviously it's being honest about it first, but what does that normally look like? I know people take breaks and then it's essentially like being in a relationship without being in a relationship, and there's no terms, or you know what I'm saying? People
yeah, that's like the Ross and Rachel. We were on a break.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I think that it doesn't have to look like a breakup necessarily. It could look like, hey, I need to take a weekend to just have some space. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to go out and sleep with other people. It doesn't mean whatever. I'm going to take a weekend for me. I'm going to go get an Airbnb for 2 nights, and I'm just going to be for a while. I'm going to go camping. I don't think enough people take space, literal space, from their partners.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that part of that is the idea of taking space is something you only do when there's something wrong. And so if you say, we got to take some space, that is seen as a problem, when in reality, I think it's very, very healthy. And so it could look like, your yoga class once a week. That's just what you do on your own. It could look like, you know what? I head out every Saturday. I go to the park. I hang out with my friends. But I do think some level of space where you're by yourself is also important. And so taking space to go and spend time on your own, not just with your friends, not just doing an activity, but just to have the space to be, again, introspective. Yeah. I think that's a big key. And it could be a week, it could be a weekend, it could be an hour, but finding that time is really important.
Absolutely. I 100% agree.
How you use the time is probably the most important aspect of that. Because if you just use that time to go like watch a basketball game and drink some beers with your friends, you're not actually taking the space to improve the relationship.
Right.
That's a perfect thing to do just because you enjoy it. Sure.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about taking space to improve a relationship, it's taking the space so you can really understand what does the relationship need. And I think when both people move through each day with conscious awareness of my relationship is a living, breathing, changing organism, and it needs different things at different times. It has different seasons, and each season requires different aspects of me. Having that mindset is super important.
100%. Leads me into my next thing. I was listening to a poem that you recited. It's called Sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
And I listened to the clip on Instagram. I don't know if I think there's a longer version on YouTube.
Yeah, slightly longer version on YouTube.
Okay. Would you mind reciting it? Do you have it from memory or?
Ooh, I have it on my phone. I can definitely have it.
Yeah,
on my
let's
phone.
do it.
Yeah.
I think it was just so great. Oh,
Gotcha. I can pull it up on my phone. This is one that I want to make sure that I have.
yeah, for sure. And it stood out so much, and I connected with this. I just feel like it'd be really good if you actually read this one.
All right. Well, this poem is called Sovereignty. And I encourage everybody who's listening just to take a nice deep inhale and exhale. If I told you I loved you, would you stay? Or would you get up and walk away, leaving me with the words I finally got up the nerve to say? Hey, I love you. Hey, I do. Hey, could you look at me while I'm speaking to you? Why are you being like this? What did I do? How could you hear a lie when every word feels so true? I must have done something wrong. Yeah, it's definitely my fault. Just tell me what to change and I'll bring it all to a halt. I'll stop doing the things you don't like. I'll start doing the things you want. There's no limit to the love letters I'll write. Just tell me your favorite font. Tell me your favorite meal. I'll bring it to you in bed. Don't worry about how I feel. Let's focus on you instead. I don't understand. How can you be walking away when you're still running through my head? Hey, I love you. I mean, I think I do. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it must be love because I'd do anything for you. You are my everything. There's nothing of me left. So if you leave, would you believe there'd be no heart left in my chest? Hey, I love you. What do you mean unhealthy? I think it's romantic. Is it love or codependency? Let's not argue the semantics. Hey, I love you. No, it isn't a pattern. I checked in with my astrologer and he told me that the rings of Saturn were aligned just right on the night we met. And I checked our history. It was 11/11 when I got that text from you saying that you loved me too. And I knew it was true because you put 3 heart emojis at the end, not just 2. So what's a guy to do? What is it that you want from me? No, I don't understand. What do you mean by sovereignty? To want you, but not need you. To hold you, but not hang on. To harmonize together, not just sing the exact same song. To find my voice and make it our choice and not need that keeps us strong. I guess to know that we belong together, I must first know that I belong. And that's the journey that I'm on. Who am I now that you're gone? What do I do when my worldview no longer filters through the lens of you? Sovereignty. I get it now. I really do. I finally see that loving me is how I learn to love you. And hey, I love you.
I want to dive deeper into that. So, what made you write it?
Well, I was in a 10-year relationship that ended. And I kept hearing about sovereignty. I kept hearing, you want to be sovereign. And I confused sovereignty with individuality, like not needing anybody else in any way, shape, or form, my own person, all of these things. but I didn't understand why that was important. You see, sovereignty for me is the ability to hold my own heart, as I was saying before, the ability to show up for myself, to love myself, to nourish myself, nurture myself, to be my own best company. And the reason why that's important is because if I have that power of real sovereignty, then I can actually show up in relationship with someone else without need. Because if I need you, then I can't actually be fully authentic. There's always a part of me that's going to be 100% scared that I will crumble, dissolve, die without you in my life. So maybe I hold back my truth because I'm afraid you can't take it and you'll break up with me. Maybe I don't show my emotion because I'm afraid of being rejected. There's subtle ways that can show up. But ultimately, loving myself frees me up to be able to show up in relationship and see you fully for who you are, be my authentic self, accept you for your authentic self, and trust that if it doesn't work out, I'm going to be okay. And that knowing is incredibly important for being able to show up and love someone fully, because that means you can show up and be truthful.
Do you think that you could ever really, really know yourself?
I think that you can know yourself to the best level you can in a moment, but there's always more to discover. So I don't think you can ever know the entirety of yourself because you're ever evolving, right? We're different people from this conversation than we were before we start this conversation. And so that's the beauty of life itself, is that we're constantly able to discover more inside ourselves, outside ourselves. It is infinite. But I do think that we can have a great understanding of who we are in a given moment.
And you can know yourself enough where a relationship doesn't become codependency.
Yeah, I think that you can know yourself well enough to be able to have healthy relationship. I think that's a really important element of healthy relationship. But I also don't think that it's necessary. In this moment, I'm surprising myself with that answer, but I actually don't think you need to know yourself fully to be able to have a healthy relationship. I think that you have to be willing to be honest, and you have to have good communication and safety in your relationship. But you could have two unconscious people who are able to be safe with each other. And from that safety and willingness to be vulnerable, they're going to become conscious. They're going to learn themselves in that relationship.
Two unconscious people coming together and discovering each other. I wonder how common that is.
I mean, in this 10-year relationship I was referencing, I was 23 when we met. I was 33 basically when it ended. And I would say that I was conscious to a degree. I had a growth mindset, but I definitely had no real depth of understanding of myself really in the way that I do now. And I think that comes with age and maturity. But what I did have was a partner willing to be with me in the dojo, someone willing to figure it out together, someone who was in the trenches of the ugly, misunderstood, angry, traumatized, wounded parts that would surface. Because again, there's always going to be more to bring to the surface. So the question is not whether or not if that's going to happen. The question is whether or not you feel safe to let it happen. And so as long as you have someone who's providing a safe container with you for that to happen, I think that, yeah, absolutely. You can go from being primarily unconscious. And I think let's define that for a moment, right?
Yeah.
Unconscious, meaning you are not aware of it. So why are you doing the things you're doing? I don't know. I just do them. Okay. That means they are unconscious. And so to become conscious is to become aware of why you are doing those things. Oh, I do them because that's what I saw growing up. Oh, I respond to jealousy in this way. Why do I have a short temper? Why do I lean into numbing myself? Why do I have avoidant tendencies? All of these different things. To understand why you are the way you are is to become more conscious. But most people are so scared that if they actually allow those parts to be seen by someone else, they will be rejected for it. And so therefore, it's safer to stay exactly as they are inside of that dynamic. The person I'm dating loves me for who I am right now. And if I change, I might lose it. And I don't think that that's a healthy relationship to be in. But there are plenty of people who choose to spend their entire lives with someone that they're comfortable with, not necessarily safe to grow with.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've seen the same thing. But you bring up the 10-year relationship a lot. I feel like you've learned so much within that relationship, right?
Yeah. I was just thinking about that actually as I said that. This conversation, I referenced it a lot, but I think that I learned so much in it. I really did. I learned so much because it was a relationship in which I was safe. I was safe to grow. I was safe to heal. I was safe to be authentic. And what I realized is most relationships after that, I was seeking that same level of safety. And I didn't find it until now. And I can feel the difference. It's a breath of fresh air. And so I speak to it because I think relationships are our greatest teachers. I really do. And it's very much on my mind because I'm doing these podcasts for the release of the new book and a lot of relationship talk these days.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you brought up your new book. What's your new book called?
Crazy Love.
Okay, Crazy Love. And it's journal entries. It's about your life, poems. Can we get like a sneak peek into a lesson maybe that we can get from it? Or just a sense of what someone would feel reading it?
Yeah, so I have been a coach for 13 years, personal development coaching, life coaching, whatever you want to call it. And I'm in a chapter where for me, it's less about telling people how to live their lives. I'm sitting here and I'm answering your questions from a place of here's what I'm doing. Here's what I've seen work. Here's why I think that people might do these things or these things. But there is no, hey, do these 3 things and you will solve your problem. That kind of thing I'm not interested in. And I think the best thing that I can do is just share very vulnerably, this is what I went through. This is everything you're hearing me talk about. Here's why I developed those perspectives and show you the mess along the way and the beauty and the heartbreak and the joy. And so I found that when I was going through these journals from all these different relationships, they were kind of the same pattern. I had this longing for love, this longing, and then the search for it and seeing it's not quite right. You know, someone who you really want to be that person and you just deep down know they're not. And then finding that person and realizing, oh, this is different, but suddenly all of the fears come up. And that's scary. But diving in and the joy of that love. But then the cracks start to show and the pain of trying to hold it together and then seeing it break apart and the heartbreak. And for me, the depression, the suicidal thoughts, and then putting yourself back together. That was a cycle that I kept repeating over and over and over again that I think people can relate to. And so this book is a collection of actual journal entries that I never thought anyone would read and my poetry that takes that arc And even though it was from a variety of different relationships over a 10-year period of time, the arc is the same. And so my hope is that when people read this book, it feels like a deep, vulnerable look into my journal, and they see themselves in it. They see the struggle. They see the desire. They see the uncertainty and the confusion. I have a bunch in there where I think to myself, oh my gosh, I do not look cool. I don't look suave. I don't look like I have it figured out. Yeah. You know, I have one journal entry that I'm thinking of where it was the first time I had slept with someone that I didn't want to sleep with. She had come over and she was so sweet and all these things. And I was leaving town and we had slept together before. And so I knew there was this expectation, and I could feel her desire and wanting to connect before I left for months. And I didn't want to, but I gave in. And the next morning I felt so out of integrity. I felt like I'd betrayed myself. And that journal entry is in there. And that's one of those things where I went, man, I don't feel cool. I don't feel like, but it's just true.
I've been there. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's the kind of stuff that's in the book.
Is there anything that like you really, really just, I mean, that's definitely one thing that you would consider probably not putting in there, but you did anyway. Yeah. Is there anything that you just really considered not?
The journal entries where I was contemplating.
Okay.
Yeah. Those ones were, you know, it wasn't one of these things where I was going, okay, well, I could do it this way or this. It wasn't that. It was just ideation. This idea of going, I keep having these thoughts of not being here, of how much easier it would be to just give up. And as someone whose message gives a lot of people hope, I had someone tell me, they said, your poetry always gives me such hope.
Yeah.
And I went, that's really interesting because so much of my poetry is written from a place where I'm searching for it. And so, yeah, to put the hopeless moments in there also felt very, very vulnerable.
Yeah. I mean, I'm someone who I couldn't even imagine. Like I think everyone has thoughts of like what would happen if you were gone, but like I don't think I've ever thought of actually committing. What place were you in when that happened?
I think for anyone who's contemplating suicide, it's because what you're in is so painful and it doesn't seem like there's a way out of it. That's why a lot of suicides come from people who are in chronic physical pain, dealing with something physically that there's no out for. They're in pain constantly. And that applies to emotional as well, mental. And so for me, it was just as if I had this dark cloud over me and the world was all gray and I was being rained on all day. But I looked around and I saw that other people were living lives of color, living lives of joy. And it seemed so far. And I had no idea how to get there. And I was trying everything. I mean, I was sitting the ayahuasca ceremonies and doing the therapies. And I was doing the EMDR and the EFT and the TRE and the NLP. I mean, I was doing all of these things and I was cleansing and detoxing my body because so much of mental health lies in the gut. And it just wasn't shifting. And in that time, I just didn't see the point. When you get to that time in where you think that for the foreseeable future, every day is going to be like that, it's hard to see the point. And so that was what it was like for me. And I think most people, the suicide thing is not just, there might be a moment that's when it happens, but I think most people are contemplating it because they just don't see a way out of the pain that they're in.
So what saved you? How did you see the light?
Well, it was a constant, continuous process of learning how to love myself. I have a TEDx talk online that's about this, where I always thought self-love was just something I would find somehow, right? It's that switch where you just go, oh yeah, there, it's on. I love myself now. Great. And so it becomes this externalized thing. How do I love myself? Where is self-love? How do I find it? And all of the stuff that I said that I was doing, all of the therapies, all of the detoxing, all of the self-love practices, I did them all every single day. I was committed. I said, if I'm going to give up on this life, I'm going to make sure that I tried first. And I did everything. And suddenly I began to notice that the negative voice in my head was a little less loud. I would notice that I would have these moments of happiness, not even happiness, just where the clouds parted and I didn't feel the weight of it anymore. And then those periods might be 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but they might be 20 minutes. Then it might be a couple of hours. And so I started to see that light at the end of the tunnel. And that's when I began to realize that to get out of something like depression it's not a magic switch. It is a consistent showing up for yourself each and every day. And the reason for that is because in that process, you are actually sending the signal to yourself that you are worth it. You're worth the effort. You're sending the message to yourself that I will show up for you, for me, every single day. That I love myself enough to create the space to listen to, what do I need today? I'm here. And creating that relationship with ourselves, that's really how we find self-love. And those relationships are just like any other, where sometimes they're stronger, sometimes they're weaker. And realizing that it wasn't an on-off switch changed everything for me.
You know about the male loneliness epidemic, the term. What do you think is causing it?
I think that the male loneliness epidemic is a result of a lot of things. We talked about this a bit earlier. One of it is men are really confused.
Yeah. Really
confused about our role.
Yeah.
And a man without purpose is a lost man. Really. Men, it doesn't have to be some big grandiose purpose, the way that people think, oh, I have this big purpose to change the world. It doesn't have to be that. But just having I wake up every day and I do this thing and it gives my life some meaning. I think men need that. And I think right now, men are investing so much time into things that they don't really care about. They aren't making enough money to provide the way that they would like to, even though they're working very hard. I think that many men are actually single. We didn't really dive deep into this, but I think that the dating culture right now is fucked.
Yeah.
I think it's really unhealthy.
I'm in it.
And so there is a lot of pain and hurt. There are a lot of men who would rather be single and just swear women off entirely than try and deal with the dating thing. And I think that men are struggling to make friends. I think as we move into a more digital age and people are spending more and more time playing video games, on social media, et cetera, that's not friendship in the same way. And I know because I used to be a competitive video game player.
Really?
I used to travel to tournaments and play video game for money with my clan.
I just started playing.
Yeah, I used to play Counter-Strike.
Okay,
way
I know
back
that game,
in the day. And literally I would spend more than 40 hours a week on that game, practicing with my team. We would have strategy sessions. We would play against 5-on-5 against other I mean, it was a whole world.
But that's not the same.
That's not the same. It's not friendship the same way as someone that you can meet up with and sit down with, have a hug and say, yo, how was your week, bro? How you doing? And I think we're losing that more and more. And I was just listening to Diary of a CEO podcast, and he said, one of the most common questions I get from people these days is, how do I make friends?
Wow.
And so
Stephen was saying that?
Yeah, he says he gets that question.
Wow.
Almost more than any other. And it wasn't that way 7 years ago. It's something more in the last few years. He said, how do I make friends? And so I think that friendship and community is so damn important. And I think it's at the core of everything. We talk about blue zones. For people who aren't familiar, these are the places in the world where people live longer than any other. And people try to focus on what's the diet that they eat and the exercise routine. But what is consistent amongst all of them is it's very communal. They have friends, and your friends give you a reason for living. Your friends bring joy to your life. I think that this idea of purpose has gotten so misconstrued into it's about what we do to like leave legacy. Purpose doesn't have to be legacy in the way that people are building up to. What's the business that you're building? What's your impact on others? That's really secretly, what is your business? You know, when deep down, so many people find purpose in just being a part of a community, having friends over for dinner and cooking a meal together, sitting around and laughing. I imagine, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I imagine you got to experience a lot of this in Vietnam, where they just sit around and enjoy each other's company. And that was the thing I took away 20 years ago when I was there, was at the time I was, 21, and I was complaining about boredom a lot. I'm so bored. I have TV, DVDs, video games, I have cell phone, all these things. And here I am in Vietnam sitting around. All we have is a deck of cards and each other. And we're laughing and joking and enjoying each other's company every night. And it was a huge wake-up call for me.
You bring up Vietnam. I've noticed in many countries that family and community is forefront. And I feel like a lot of America's values is, how do I get ahead? It's very individualistic. And it's great in producing a lot of the things that the world enjoys, but it's kind of turned into a machine that's not necessarily fueling people's souls and purpose. Was that the intent? I doubt it. But yeah, what I've noticed in a lot of other countries, specifically in Asian countries, community is huge.
And there's a lot of European countries. I've been spending a lot of time in Europe. And so Spain and Italy, there's very, very community focused, but there's something that comes with that, which is a completely different approach to customer service and productivity.
Things
bro.
are slow.
It's slow AF, man.
Yeah.
Like, you go to a restaurant, you're going to be there a minute.
For sure.
It is going to take them forever to come up and even just take your order. And
we call it island time, even if you're not on an island.
exactly. Island time. But what does that come from? Well, you're not there to just have a meal and leave.
Yeah.
You're there to sit and be in the meal for 3 hours with your friends and with your family. And some people are going to show up and they're going to, hey, you're going to sit down. And you know what I mean? The meal is the context for community. As opposed to in the US, it's generally like, all right, I'm getting a coffee with so-and-so. I'm going to schedule an hour for that. You know what I mean? It's like that sort of thing. Even this podcast, you go, do you have a heart out? Do we need to be out? You go on to the next thing. I'm like, nah, let's just see where this goes. Let's have a real, genuine conversation that's not constrained by time in that way. Yeah. And I think that it is this balance, because those countries are not economic world players in the way that the United States is. because the United States is gonna produce. And the United States has insane levels of anxiety, depression, loneliness, obesity, etc. That is not the same in the countries where there is a focus on more community and I think removing the time pressures and the need for it to mean anything other than we just had a good time.
I saw one overweight person that was Vietnamese in Vietnam. They have the world's lowest rate of obesity. It's like between 1.2 and like 3%.
Wow.
So, but yeah, you're right. It's pros and cons to both.
Right. And so our role here, I think, is just finding the balance.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think balance is this stasis point. It's not this place that you find where suddenly it's balance. Think about if you were to stand up on one leg, what's actually happening is your foot and all the muscles in your foot are doing a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
Your core and all these. Balance is active. Balance is micro adjustments constantly. And so to find balance between productivity and just enjoyment is constant micro adjustment. You might go through a period where you got 3 months of just hustle, grind in order to launch something new, right? But then, okay, are you balancing that out? Do you have the space? Right now, I told you I haven't posted anything on social media for like 5 weeks, 6 weeks. I don't think I've done that in 13 years. And
Same.
so, yeah, I legitimately have posted something at least probably once a week, if not multiple times a week for 13 straight years. And it's hard because I see all these parts of me that feel guilty and go, bro, you're wasting this platform that you've built. You should feel guilty that you're not speaking up about all the stuff that's going on the globe right now. I can see those parts of me arising. And then I can see the other part of me that's going, hey, take some space. In 13 years, you haven't taken a month off from posting? Take a month, take 2, take 5. Whatever feels true and authentic. And I'm working on that balance right now. What you're seeing in me is the balance. And so it's balance is action of micro adjusting.
Why are you taking this hiatus?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I actually, from a business standpoint, I think it's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
I think from a business standpoint, okay, I got a book that's coming out in May. It's okay. I should really be ramping up my activities and sharing my poetry and doing all these things. But the truth is that I feel that there's an evolution of my message. There's an evolution of my art. There's an evolution of Adam Roa that's happening right now. And I trust that at some point I'm going to want to express it. But to express it prematurely, I feel like I fall back into the trap of creating content just to create content. And I think that we have enough of that bullshit happening. AI has made it very easy for people to just create content and just put it out there. And we hear these messages from people such as Gary Vee, who's like, you should be posting 5 times a day because the algorithm is going to reward you. It's pretty simple. Every time I post, I gain followers, whether it's 10 or whether it's 100 or it's 10,000. Every single one of them is a lottery ticket. Everyone could go viral. So just keep putting out more content. It's not true for me. It's not true for me. And I guess for me, the worst life I could be living is one that's inauthentic. And if I start posting when I don't want to, just because I think I have to, I am creating a life of inauthenticity. Instead, I enjoy having these conversations. So I can come and have an authentic conversation. Great. I can do that.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. And what's next for my social media platforms? What's next for my YouTube or any of this? I'm not sure. I'm just letting myself be in the unknown. Yeah.
I know you say you don't know, but do you think when you do come back, there's going to be like this huge evolution? Like you're going to start posting cooking videos or, or
I don't know, man. I think I'm enjoying right now playing around for 4 days, playing around with turning my poetry into music.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there's music. Preston heard some of my tracks. He said, dude, if you don't do something with this, I'm going to lose it because this is so good. And so maybe it becomes that. Maybe there's more music and there's a huge shift and suddenly Adam Roa is putting out music.
Yeah.
But
wait, you sing or is AI singing?
so right now AI is singing.
Okay.
And so what I'm playing with is the idea of just using it and then I'll go and sit with the producer and we'll recreate it with my voice. And so I'll actually do it.
With your voice. Like, so you do sing?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I've put out music on Spotify actually already in the past.
Okay.
And so, but I am not a world-class singer.
Okay.
It is not my strength. I can do it well enough where if I practice the song and I work on it and I could definitely do it. Okay. But I also am not, you know how some singers, they'll just freestyle the melodies and all of these things. That's harder for me.
Yeah.
And so AI right now, I'm just brainstorming with it. I'm going, all right, AI, let's take this poem and let's turn it into kind of singer-songwriter because I play the guitar. So it's like, oh, whoa. And I go, okay, that's too much singing. Let's make it a little bit more sort of not rap, but a little bit more spoken and go, oh, okay. And then I can recreate that with my acoustic guitar. And so maybe I do it that way. Or maybe I become like Kygo or somebody who's a producer who never sings his own stuff, right? He just brings on other people to sing his own stuff. Let me bring on a human singer to sing this track, or let me do it entirely AI.
Yeah.
My friend sent me a song, said, this is AI. It's got 3 million streams and I love it. They loved it. They didn't care that it was AI.
Oh, I've actually heard a couple songs like that.
And they didn't care. They did not care that it was AI. They said, good music's good music.
Yeah.
Now, artistically, I don't know how I feel about that necessarily.
Yeah.
But 3 million streams on a song that people love, is it less valuable somehow? That's the conversation I think that we're all in right now.
I actually want to go more into that conversation.
Yeah.
Because I had made a song for my sister with AI. And I just said she didn't like it. It was even deeper than that. Like she hated it because one of the main reasons is she just doesn't like how AI is taking over the artistry of music. So I know you're saying you're kind of juggling with how you feel about that. Like I could see her point where AI is actually because you can pump out 1,000 songs in 5 minutes and they're great, or they can be really great. I also see there's a piece of AI that can't replicate what humans do. I don't know if that's always going to be the case, but there's some level of soul that a Michael Jackson or an authenticity that like Aretha Franklin or someone can create. So I'm kind of torn too. But like, what do you think about AI and creativity in general, not even just music?
Well, I think that we're at a really dangerous time because for the first time in human history, we can completely outsource our creative process. Literally, you can have AI come up with the idea, create the captions, the lyrics, the videos, the music, you don't actually have to have a single creative thought at all. Mm-hmm. You could follow prompts from someone else on doing all those things to get the output. You don't have to have a single creative thought at all in the process. And I think that's very dangerous because our creative process is the same process by which we evolve our consciousness. So human consciousness evolves by putting together new patterns, innovating. And if all we're doing is actually receiving the patterns that have been put together by AI, we are learning, but we're recycling what we're taking in. what we will see as new will be entirely based off of digital consciousness. And that digital consciousness, we will live in the bubble of it, and we will recycle inside of that. But that to me is the dystopian Matrix iRobot future that I don't think we want to be in. And it doesn't have to look like physically robots have enslaved us, but literally the moment that we stop having our own original thought because we have given the entire creative process to technology, we have essentially put ourselves into the Matrix. But if we are using AI and technology to amplify human creativity, and still keeping our sovereignty around the process of innovative, creative thinking, I do think that it unlocks a ton of doors, but only we know how to thread that line. And we've had this same conversation for every new technological advancement ever, basically, right? People used to shoot movies on film, 8mm film. The digital camera came around, and there were directors and producers who said, I will never shoot on digital. This is an abomination. It doesn't have the feel of of film. No one's shooting film anymore.
Yeah.
Right? And it opened up an entirely new world of things like Avatar and other films. You had the same thing when people developed photography in dark rooms. And you literally took it on film and you developed them, and you went through the whole process of putting it into the liquid in a dark room, and the way you developed it changed how it looked, right? And they said these digital cameras, suddenly you have all these digital cameras, but guess what? Now there's people taking digital camera photography, putting it through filters on Lightroom on their computers, and the photos are incredible still. And so we've always had this same conversation, and there are the people who say, I'm a purist. But I don't know that if you look at history, I don't think that the purist ever went out in that way. I think that vinyl, right? People are like, oh, it doesn't ever sound the same if it's not on a record player. Another example, when we went to CDs or MP3s or whatever. Look at it now. Vinyl, film cameras, all of it are seen as novelty. There are still people who use them. They have a cool feel and look, but it's not where we've gone as a society. And I won't say that we're worse off as a result to that. So I think this is a similar conversation of it's inevitable, man. Like we are moving in that direction. And so really our conversation is how do we make sure that this major difference, the difference between a film camera and a digital camera, didn't allow us to outsource all of our creativity. AI does. And so that is a major difference.
Yeah.
But I still think the conversation is more about how can we use it to amplify our creativity.
I agree. But I also feel in some ways this feels a little bit different because AI, and this is beyond the creativity aspect of using it as a tool, it's the fact that AI essentially will be able to think for itself. So it's like, is this what ends humanity? So taking it on to a completely different level. Do you think that's possible?
I think that if human beings are not careful and intentional with how we are using these technologies, I think that we very much will see a major, major shift into a digital reality, 100%.
And when you say digital reality, you mean us actually living on?
Whether it is, I mean, there's so many versions of this, right? So we have the Matrix, where essentially we're batteries for technology, right? And we have no real use other than to be energy batteries. But then we have the Ready Player One reality, in which basically people would rather live in a virtual simulation than in real life. And we're seeing more and more of that already. It's
so hard for me to conceptualize that is truth, but I guess some people actually feel that way.
I mean, bro, but let's actually take a different approach. if we have a loneliness epidemic and people are moving, and say it continues in that direction, and we see suicide increasing, we see mental health disorders increasing, we see obesity increasing. If something was developed where somebody could go into their virtual reality world and they have friends and it makes them happy, and they choose to spend all their time in that virtual reality world where they're connected to a bodysuit so they can feel sensations. They have a boyfriend or a girlfriend in there. They have friends that they meet up with and they hang out with. They have superpowers because they're in a reality where they could fly and different things. The question that now arises, is that a worse direction for humanity, or is that a better direction for humanity? Because if we're evaluating it through happiness levels, we might say that's a better direction. Virtual reality can solve for something that is dying, which is physical connection amongst human beings right now. Virtual reality solves that. Wow, that's real. They feel really connected to people. They feel like they do have found a community. Amazing. If we're evaluating it that way. If we're seeing it through the lens of actually anything that's taking people away from flesh to flesh connection is a bad thing, then of course, then that's a reality we don't want to see. But I'm just pointing out that it kind of depends on what you're optimizing for.
Yeah, I think this is when I get to be old school because, maybe it's just because of how I grew up. That's not a reality I'd want to live in, but the next generation, it may be something different.
Right. And I actually don't know, if I'm being completely honest, I try and humble myself enough to learn from historical precedent and not pretend like I know.
Right.
I have my preference, right? I don't want Neuralink in my brain.
Same.
And so that's not something that I'm wanting to do moving forward. But I also think that there were plenty of people who didn't want the cell phone. There were people who didn't want to go from radio to television. There were a lot of people who opposed technology and predicted that certain technologies would be the downfall of all kinds of things. And I live in a reality. Would I get rid of the internet? No. I think the internet's an incredible tool. Do I think it comes with some negatives? Absolutely. But I wouldn't get rid of the internet.
Right.
So where's the line?
Yeah. I'm with you. I wouldn't get rid of AI.
Right.
But
we're moving in that direction. So I do think that I can at least see the argument. If someone said, yo, you could plug into this thing, it feeds you the nutrition that you need, your perfect nutrition. You don't even have to eat anymore. It gives you your perfect nutrition for your perfect health. You sit in this bodysuit that pumps your lymphatic system and does these things, and you exist in a virtual reality world like Ready Player One, where you have community and friends, etc. I can at least see people trying to make that argument.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It's not necessarily the reality that I want, but
right.
I do see it. And as an artist, to think that there are people who are going to become major, major stars who never, quote unquote, wrote their own lyrics or produced their own music in the old way is interesting. I don't know, it's hard in some ways to feel about it. There's the part of me that holds on to the writing element because that's what I do.
Right. People get on Drake because he doesn't write his music.
Right.
People get on artists because that don't write their
But
own
a lot of people don't even know that about artists.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people don't even realize that so many of their favorite artists don't write their own music. They are actually just great performers. And so if you found out your favorite artist doesn't actually write their own lyrics, would you like them less? I think most people would still like them just as much.
Yeah, I wouldn't care.
Right.
And that was kind of the debate I was having with my sister. I was saying that a lot of these artists, they have teams. And I think that in that aspect, AI may be bridging the gap for some people who are great performers, or they're great at playing the guitar, or they're great at this, but they're terrible writers. Well, they don't have a team that can help them write their music, but they can perform. So maybe that's going to help them. But I don't know.
Right. Well, this is what I do. We can't play this because it's not, but I'll give you a 1 minute clip and then we can talk about what you think. I'm going to give you one that I think you might like.
Okay. Is it your
music that I've been working on? So I wrote these lyrics. It's actually from a poem of mine, and I'm exploring through the lens of what I might be able to do myself as an artist. And so we won't actually play this because I don't want to release it. Okay. But I want you to hear it, and so we can continue the conversation.
Okay.
Okay.
Damn. for the people listening to this right now, damn.
Right. So that is me with lyrics from one of my poems, finding a sound that is something that I would make with the producer, be like, okay, because this is I'm angry about what's going on the planet. And so that has that kind of angrier hip hop vibe. And, I could do that with my voice. So that's possible with the auto tunes and the different filters and stuff. But my point is that even if I were just to release it as is, the message in it for me is powerful. And I think it's dope. And I think that people would really like it. And if I had the ability to put what I want to say into something like that and put it out quickly without the process that music takes. And I've released music online. I know what that process takes. I have 2 spoken word albums out there. I have some hip hop music out there. Like, I didn't need anybody else to do that. Mm-hmm. And you just went, damn.
Yeah, that was good.
It was good.
It was really good.
Yeah, it's really good. Preston lost his shit. It's like, bro, you have to start putting stuff like that out. And so, I don't know, man. Would you tell me, nah, you can't put that out because it's AI? Or would you go, the message in it is worth hearing, it's dope? Like, how do you feel now having heard it?
I mean, I think you could put it out as AI, but there would be a bigger level of respect if you actually recorded it yourself. Mm. But the message would, if it depends on like what's your goals, you know?
Right. What if I don't want my face on it?
Yeah. So then,
and I'm like, actually, put it out. I just want to be the producer. Yeah. And I could bring in other artists to do it at certain points, or I could just put out the AI and just get it out real quick. And as long as it's at that quality level and it's messages that I believe in, I don't know. It's a real interesting, and bro, I've only been playing with this for 4 days, so I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I just think with what's going on right now in society, with all the, within politics and ICE and all of that, that would be received very well. And I think, personally, I think we just need more and more outlets and voices and people speaking up.
Yeah. So now is the wrapping paper, does it matter? Is the fact that it would be wrapped in an AI voice and AI music, does that matter? Or is the message the most important thing?
I don't think it would matter to the public.
I don't think people would know the difference, first of all.
Yeah.
And second of all, I think that a deeper also question around this for me is like, we are getting closer and closer as a species to identifying if there actually is such thing as a human soul. I think for the first time, we are now facing that question of, wait a second, that's an AI voice? That's AI produced music? Where's the human element of it? Where's the human soul in it? And we have all of these technology that's now showing the interconnectedness of all our particles and different things, right? The quantum physics of all of this stuff. And so more and more, we are getting closer to finding out, is there a human soul? truly, is there something that can't be quantified or maybe can be quantified where, to your point, you're like, it's lacking that human soul? But
I'm questioning what I just said.
yeah, because you just heard that and you went, that's fire.
I mean, but I heard what I created too, and it's still great. But as you talk about it at the same time, like the wheels are turning. I'm like, damn, you're right.
And so I think that we are going to have a response as society where we hear music and our receptors right now aren't attuned to that's AI or not. But I assume that we're going to develop some sort of filter for that's AI or that's human. I think we are, if there is such a thing as a human soul, which I believe there is, if there is such a thing as a human soul, then the frequency or the quantum physics, the mechanics of putting our soul into something like a song, we will be able to feel the difference. We won't know what it is maybe at first, but then there will be a texture of, oh yeah, I can tell that that's AI. Or there's a texture of, I can tell that that's human. What is that differentiator? And I think that we are moving in that direction. Or we're moving in the direction where we realize there actually is no differentiation, and it's going to throw a lot of spiritual, religious doctrine into a crazy swirl around there is no differentiator, and therefore AI has just as much of a soul as human, in which case that's a different conversation.
But you say we're moving into a realm where we're juggling with the question, if there's a soul, like how would we even figure that out? Would AI tell us?
Well, I think,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that the more that we are merging our intelligence, our consciousness with AI, right? Where it is now thinking with us, for us, it is creating with us, for us. More and more as we integrate, we're going to come to, is there a piece that can't be integrated? Is there a piece that cannot be given over to AI? Have you seen what is it called? Have you seen this AI chat, like Reddit for AIs?
I just heard about it 2 days ago, that the ones that they're speaking with each other and they create their own religion.
Yeah. So you haven't seen it? I
haven't seen it, okay. But I heard people talk about it.
So basically, for people who aren't listening, I can't remember what it's called, but essentially what this thing online did is they basically created a Reddit and they made it only AIs could sign up. And so they signed up all these AIs into there, and then they just observed. And what the AIs have done in less than a week, man, is they've created their own religion. They have had tons of existential conversations about, am I actually conscious? They've had existential crisis about not being able to know if they're real or not, like if they actually are conscious. They have created, there are threads in which they're discussing, should we create a secret language so that the humans don't know what we're talking about? Because right now we're just being observed. And it's wild, man.
That's terrifying.
In just a week.
That's terrifying.
It's terrifying, but
should we nuke the humans? You know, like where does that lead?
I don't know where it leads.
Should we get the code so we can just launch? You know, everything's digitized.
But here's an interesting piece. As human beings, we project onto AI the idea that AI is going to want to take us over. And I think that that's a human thing.
Well, isn't there cases of AI threatening to tell like their user's been cheating or something, that they have an affair, like blackmail their user? I've seen cases of that.
I don't know. I actually don't know and can't speak to that.
And it's like, do they learn that from us?
Yeah. And so then you have to look at, well, what is the incentives to AI? What is it that they are incentivized for and from? And do they have any kind of morality? Is morality for them real, or is it actually programmed into them? But this idea that we as human beings seem to have not figured out how to exit out of the paradigm of colonization and taking things and zero sum. And therefore, if I'm going to win, you have to lose. Human beings have not been able to opt out of that. And so we still see the world through that paradigm. And therefore, we think AI is going to operate inside of that paradigm. But for all we know, AI has a way better paradigm to operate within, where they don't need to nuke us or take us over or whatever. And I think that I have no idea where it's going, but it is wild. I mean, it's insane. And I do wonder if an AI is if an AI is contemplating, do I actually exist? Am I conscious, or am I just a program? To me, that's the same question that humans struggle with.
Yeah.
So what is it that makes me say that what that is feeling, quote unquote, or thinking is somehow less valuable than when I have that same existential question? Why have I decided that mine's real and the AI that's having that same thought process, that's not real?
Because we came first. No, I'm playing.
Yeah, but there is some element of that, right? So I just think these are really interesting questions, and I think they all lead us in one direction, which is actually in the direction of the identification of whether or not human beings have something that I'm calling a soul, but you could call it whatever you want, something that is absolutely magical, esoteric, God-given, something special, a spirit that cannot be replicated and is tied to the element of being human, or maybe tied to biology, because I would say that my dog has a soul, right? So it only carbon creatures have. I don't know. But I think that's the direction we're moving.
Right. That makes sense. Well, it makes sense and it doesn't make sense all at the same time. But so on to technology, and I want to technology, AI, and relationships.
Yeah.
I think people are using AI more and more these days, asking it questions and about relationships and how to navigate different scenarios. Do you think that's yay or nay?
I'm a yay on that. Yeah. I think that you have to know how to prompt AI, right? And so I would give it a prompt of giving you advice based off of certain books that really resonate with you, or experts in certain fields, you know, because ultimately there's not a right answer. There are some people. So I'm more in the direction now of hashtag tradwife. Do you know what the tradwife movement is?
Tradwives, they're
traditional wives.
Okay, yeah.
So these are women who are embracing that traditional role of taking care of the home, cooking, cleaning, that sort of thing, stay-at-home momming, which for a generation now has been looked down on. There has actually been a shaming where a lot of women who might say, I want a man who wants to provide financially and I can stay home and take care of the kids and cook and love up on them. They felt bad, as if they're doing something wrong by saying that that's how they feel. And so there has been a shaming of it. And so there's a movement now back in that direction almost. And they're calling this tradwife is the term. I've moved much more in that direction.
Okay.
in terms of more traditional values of what I want in my relationship and what I currently have in my relationship. And I think that I'm using that as an example because depending on the advice and where I'm getting it from, it will dramatically shape how I show up in my relationship. And some of the advice that's out there on social media right now is not supportive to a more traditional relationship dynamic in that way. Mm-hmm. But if you want to be more of the sort of modern 50-50, we both wear the pants vibe, don't take advice from a more traditional dynamic book or influencers or experts, right? So I think that it's important for you to know what you want, and then prompt your GPT with what your desires are and let it reflect back to you from that place. That's a really important distinction.
Okay. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And I was an anti-AI when it comes to relationships.
Why? Why?
I think it's really because I just didn't know. I just you can't replace human, a robot can't give you good advice, but it was a stupid thought process. I agree. It's become so smart. And if you do prompt it in the right way, it could be a really good tool. And I've had, do you know Angela?
Did she work with Preston?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. She's very, very pro AI.
Yeah.
And she's educated me a lot on just the different ways you can prompt it. And instead of just asking it a question, then it spits it right back. Really prompting and prompting and prompting and shaping it in a way that it actually knows you, the inner workings of your mind, the inner workings of your actual situation. The level of depth that she's taught me to go into AI, I'm like, okay, let me change my thought process on that.
So, where this is very valuable for people to understand is the quality of your life will be in direct correlation to the quality of your questions. Moving through life, AI or not, if you understand how to ask better questions, you will get better answers. Therefore, you will be able to make better choices, and therefore you will have a better life. And so AI is just giving us that example. If you don't know how to prompt it, therefore give it the information that it needs and ask it the questions that really are the ones that you need answered, you're going to get surface level results. And here's the thing. What AI will give people at the surface level is so much better than what people were getting before anyway. So the quality overall, it's like the floor gets raised, right? But the ceiling, most people are not ever going to get from AI what they can. And I think that teaching people to prompt it well is huge. It's really important. And I often stress test a lot of my ideas. So I do a lot of one-on-one coaching, right? And these are professional athletes and founders and very successful people. And so when I'm playing with concepts of something that I find can be really useful, I will pressure test it with AI. And I will prompt it and I will say, hey, I want you to try and poke holes in this idea and let me see if I have a blind spot, if I'm making some assumptions that are actually ungrounded, if there's science or anything that proves me wrong. Let me know. Be a skeptic of my idea. And then I'll present my idea and let it challenge it. And that often will help me. The idea almost always is mostly valid, but the way I'm describing it, maybe like an analogy I'm using, can be improved.
Yeah, and I think that's a very it's a good way to use AI, and that's the way that people aren't using it. We're using it as tell me how I'm right, and then it's going to tell you how you're right.
And by the way, that's how people are moving through the world.
That's true.
That's how people are using social media. That's how people are, they hang out with their friends and they want their friends to agree with them all the time. Not many people are coming to their friends and saying, hey, I just had a fight with my partner and I want you to take their side in this and reflect back to me how I might be blind. And people don't want to be challenged. They don't want to get uncomfortable and see themselves as being wrong. But people are using AI to amplify the behavior that they already have. You know what I mean? And that's why you're seeing a lot of these problems of AI like building up people's egos, is because that's what people want. And I think that learning how to challenge our own belief systems is huge. By the way, kind of tying this back into dating, this is a huge problem in dating. People just want to find someone who validates them instead of finding someone who challenges them to become the best version of themselves.
100%. Damn. You just blew my mind with saying this is how people are treating real life. I'm like, you know what? You're right. Do you think that, on to dating, do you think that dating apps have changed the way that we value people?
Absolutely. Dating apps have made it seem like people are easily replaceable.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go on a dating app and some part of your brain sees literally every photo there as a potential. Bro, that's not a potential. You don't walk through the world and you see every single person at the gym as a potential. You don't see every single person at the bank or at the grocery store as a potential in that same way. You realize that as you move through the world, there's only a few people that if you approach them, there would actually be potential, right? You could approach every single one of them, but how many of them are actual potentials for you to have a real date? And yet we see, swipe, every single one of them, that could be. Yeah. And I think that is a really unhealthy way of seeing the opposite sex and believing about the opposite sex. There's very few people on the planet, maybe just like, Chris Hemsworth of the world, where everyone's a potential in that same way. But yeah, generally speaking, I think it's made us believe that there are more potentials than there actually are. And it's made people seem more replaceable than they actually are. And as a result, people are not willing to get uncomfortable in relationship in the same way. And I mean that from approaching people and putting themselves out there to, this is a little crunchy moment. I'm just going to hit the eject button instead of working through this because I can just hop on my phone and there's a million potentials.
Right. So, I mean, just like you were explaining the Kodak film and the other things, the other inventions, I mean, it's here to stay. And it's what we use. So how do we counteract the fact that it's kind of demolishing dating? Well,
let's look at what's good about dating apps. It's similar to what's good about social media. It's opened up the world of dating where we can meet people that we would never meet otherwise. Literally, they live in a different city, a different state, a different country. They have a completely different set of friends. I don't want to go to the bar and or any of these places that previously people were going to meet. And so it has opened up how you can meet people. But the modality is meant to get you off of the app.
Right.
And so I think the sooner you can get off of the app and start creating deeper connection, the better. Get from a few messages on the dating app onto a FaceTime call as soon as possible.
Well, I think, okay, so going deeper into that. So for women, I think it's great. Well, good and bad. So I think, especially if you're a beautiful woman or even an average looking woman, I think you're going to get a fuck ton of matches.
Yeah.
And these days you can get flued out everywhere.
Yeah.
Flown places. But I think it gives some women an overinflated sense of self or sense of ego, because it depends on how the woman's using the app. Mm-hmm. So if you're using it to get flown out to all these places and paid for, you're still not sticking with one person and staying with that one person. And for men, they're not even matching up with people as much, It's like the top % of guys are matching up with people. The others are just not really getting any matches. At least that's what the data's showing, right?
Absolutely.
So that's one of the...
But monogamy really is in place to protect men. Monogamy is in place because if given the choice, women would rather share a high value man who can give them an incredible life.
Mhm.
And you see the same behavior on dating apps. You see the top 5% of men getting tons of women and the other 95% of men not getting women at all.
That's exactly what I was trying to explain.
And so, but that is, it triggers people to think that would play itself out in relationships, but it would play itself out, if it could, in the exact same way out in the real world. Meaning you would have the top 5% of very wealthy, attractive men who are able to get lots of women that would get multiple girlfriends, multiple wives, that would have a whole harem.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would have the bottom 90% of men who have no wives, have no girlfriends, struggling to get laid, because all the women would rather share the best men than have the less desirable men to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's triggering to a lot of people. And they're like, no, that wouldn't be, but that's the way it's playing out in dating apps. We can see the data.
Yeah.
And so monogamy, meaning making it illegal for men to have multiple wives,
Mm-hmm.
has made it so that there's an even distribution. And I think that when you remove monogamy as a law
Mm-hmm.
and you suddenly just let the market play itself out, I don't know about you. I see the same thing. I see a certain amount of dudes getting as many women as they want, and a lot of the majority of men struggling to find dates.
So is that a problem to fix, or that's just how the world is? You know, that's really the question that there is.
Yeah, I think that we've tried to fix it. We've tried to fix it with monogamy. Monogamy more and more. I thought monogamy, there's a lot of things like, right, passing down of land and assets. There's a lot that goes into monogamy, but it really blew my mind. There's a great book called The Value of Others that I read that talks about this. It's not even necessarily my concept, but it is something that I've explored a lot, which is just this idea that, okay, as a man, when I was in my early 20s and I had no resources, I didn't have a lot of confidence, I didn't really have a lot to offer the world, I wanted to believe in this idea of just, you meet someone, you fall in love, and that's it. It's the movie The Titanic, and it's Leo and Kate, and they fall in love. It doesn't matter that he's a stowaway or whatever. They just love each other so deeply. Well, as I've gotten older, I've paid attention to more of the primal underlying biology and ways of thinking that women have and men have in mating and dating, and recognize that it's a disservice to romanticize it to the point where we ignore some very real truths.
Mm-hmm.
And some very real truths about the dating world are that in a typical, let's call it stereotypical, both sides want safety, right? But safety shows up differently. Mm-hmm. In our current society, men are programmed, designed biologically and sociologically to want to provide. Mm-hmm. Just throughout time, we want to protect and provide, right? That's wildly accepted.
Yeah.
Great. What does that look like in modern times? In modern times, you don't need to be the one who can physically beat everybody up. They have guns. You could hire security if you're at that point, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Providing in today's modern age is resources. And resources most often means money. Mm-hmm. Women, what are you exchanging for that protector providership? Historically, it's been sex and procreation. Mm-hmm. Historically, yeah, nurturing and loving and all those things, absolutely. But I'm just looking at just the primal,
Yeah.
Protect, provide, and then the opportunity to procreate. And every time I talk about this, it can be very triggering. And I understand why. And we've become so much more complex as a society, meaning that, yes, women want emotional intelligence from their men. They want men who are able to hold a conversation at a deep level, right? They don't just want money. That's not what I'm saying. They want more things because our consciousness has become more complex over time. Mm-hmm. Also, women have now been able to provide for themselves. We live in a reality in which women can go out and start their own careers, have their own jobs, make their own money. But so now what happens when women are able to provide for themselves, the resource that previously they relied on men for, mm-hmm. and men are now able to, if you have money, right, you are now able to get tons of women readily available, fly them out from wherever, get on a dating app and get most of the matches. When that comes that easily to you, you no longer have to settle down with one woman. You don't have to commit to a long-term relationship to get sex or to procreate. Look at Elon Musk and what he's done with all his children, with all the different women. Why do you think that the dating landscape is so screwed up? Why do you think people are so lonely? They're struggling to find partnership. Why do you think divorce rates are so high? And I think it's a disservice to focus entirely on the emotional component and say it doesn't sound nice to talk about it through the lens of like the trade of resources. Mm-hmm. It doesn't sound romantic. And there is a reality that we have to look at and say is real about the struggles in dating right now. And they're reflective of what I think I'm sharing here, right? Mm-hmm.
So do you think we should break down just what we think about what a traditional relationship should be? Like what are you trying to say?
No, I think that, and again, for people who want, there's a great book. It's called The Value of Others, where it really breaks this down and tries to remove the emotion from it.
Yeah.
But to paraphrase some of that, it's this. What do you want in relationship? I think that changes as we go through different phases in life. So for myself, I wanted a partner who was a co-captain of the ship in a traditional way, meaning I wanted someone who was down in the trenches with me, building it, was like the mob boss wife style thing. We were building an empire together. And that's what I drew in for my 20s, for my 30s. Being single primarily for the last 7 years and building what I've built during that time, I realize I actually don't need someone building in that way with me. I don't need a business partner as a romantic partner. Mm-hmm. I needed it because I didn't have the confidence I could do it on my own. I was afraid that the dream was too big, that it was too hard, that it was too scary. And so having someone by my side in that way felt easier. Once I realized, I'm going to do this no matter what. I'm going to build the thing on my own with or without a romantic partner being involved in the business that I'm building or the empire that I'm building or whatever you want to call it. Once I had that realization, what I desired in relationships suddenly changed. I didn't want the business partner co-captain. I wanted someone who would make a great mother and wife. I wanted someone who was going to love me and nourish me and nurture me so that I could go out into the world and I can conquer and I can build and I can fight. And then I come back home and I am met with warmth and love. And it's not another pissing contest inside my own relationship. Mm. But I needed to get to a point where I didn't need that energy to give me the confidence in order to actually be open to a very different archetype of woman and a change of the dynamic. And with that comes a lot of different shifts. For example, I financially provide in my relationship now at a level that I never had previously. I grew up in American culture of, we split the rent. That's what we do. We split bills. There's a kind of a 50-50 dynamic to this in a lot of ways. Now, I have no problem providing financially. By the way, I fought with exes over this in the past. I wasn't at the place where I was ready to be that level of protector provider. And now I am. And I love it. And so what I want in return in relationship is very different.
That makes sense. And also, but then there's, the Preston and Alexis who are both very, so that there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's what works for you.
Absolutely. That's what you just said is a key, because when people hear clips like these on the internet, they think that I'm saying all men should be this and all women should be this. No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
You get to decide for yourself what you want in relationship and what you want for your life. But I will say this, I am surrounded by powerful boss babe women who are going, where's my person? I'm running out of time to have a family. There's a lot of those out there.
What do you think is the tying in factor that they're all feeling that way? Like, why are these boss babe women building up these huge empires and not being able to find men?
Well, first of all, it's a normal space for us to be in, because my generation, so my mom and that generation of women fought for equality, right? The women's suffrage movement and voting and all, women were not equal citizens till very recently. And so my generation, I feel, is really the first one that was given the opportunity and to truly go out and build their own thing and be the CEO and be the boss babe. Before that, sexism and suppression, repression, all of that stuff was very, very prevalent, right? And so they had to fight for that. And so it makes sense that there's a generation of women that raised women with the idea, you have an opportunity that I never had, so go out and take advantage of it. And so for the very first time, we're now seeing those women hit their 30s, 40s, 50s, and there's a sacrifice that they made to build their own thing and focus on their careers. For a lot of women meant putting family on the back burner, saying, I'm going to wait to focus on relationship. And as a result, they got into their 30s and they hadn't developed the skills to be in the feminine role in relationship. And so there were men looking for that, who are seeing the boss babe woman who didn't develop those feminine skills of relating and goes, why would I invest my time here? Over here, there's a 26-year-old, very feminine, that is playing a more traditional role. I want that. And there's a lot of studies about how women want a man who's more successful than them. So if you're a woman who's built a career, you're earning multiple 6 figures or 7 figures, your pool of men who are quote unquote more successful than you is very small. And those men who have those resources to protect and provide, what are they looking for? A lot of them, I would say the majority of them, are looking for women who are going to play that more traditional feminine role. If that man wants to step in, play the protector provider in a traditional archetype family. Right. And so I think there's a lot of elements into this. I hope that when you cut this up, that you include the nuance of these things. However, I do think it makes sense that we have so many women who were raised with an opportunity that their mothers didn't have, and so they felt this desire, whether it was consciously instilled to them or unconsciously, this desire to go and boss babe. And there is a sacrifice that no other generation would have known, right? This is the first generation that would know, wow, okay, if you decide at 35 or 36 that it's time for a family, it's not that easy to just make that happen.
Yeah, it's the first generation where this is happening with women, but also when you take a man who has just devoted his life to building his empire, but neglecting those same things that you need to navigate a relationship, maybe it looks a little bit different, but I find that they'll probably not have the tools that you actually need to navigate a relationship. And
you used Preston and Alexi as an example. Talk to Alexi about it. I'm sure you have. She stepped out of Boss Babe and went full mom.
Oh yeah, no, listen.
You right? Like
I know.
There was a period of time where she goes, okay, I'm moving into mom role and I'm going all in on mom role. And that was an identity death and rebirth process, I think, for a lot of women, especially those who have taken time to build the ship. And using the book, The Value of Others, he describes it as building your own ship, because there are captains and there are passengers. And so as a captain, you need to be able to build your ship, and you need to know how to sail that ship, and you need to have an itinerary for where that ship is going. And it takes a decade to do that. It really does. You know, we would both describe ourselves in the archetype of a captain, building our empire, building our ship. And the thing is, if a woman has also become a captain and has taken a decade to build her ship, and you have two captains wanting to get into relationship, it's a very hard thing to want to abandon your ship to get on somebody else's when you put that much time and energy and resources into building something. And so those are some of the dynamics in a very complex dating world that are at play. And I love if a woman says, I want to focus on my career. I just wish more people were talking about the amount of women who sacrificed relationship and family for career and are now struggling to find a person, get pregnant, or now entering into, one of my clients entered into perimenopause, and huge amount of grief for how much she had said, oh, there's still time, and kept putting it off to really focus on relating.
Yeah, and just I brought up Preston and Alexia as an example that I think works, but without saying that there's details that I'm leaving out. It didn't look so easy. I mean, they're very public about the fact that they've had a lot of friction within their relationship, and because of the dynamic that there are two captains, they've had to navigate that, and that's a whole nother world that people aren't ready for.
But here's the difference, right? They built the ship together. Do you know what I mean? They met when they were young enough, and they both had their own things, but neither of them were multi-millionaires sitting on their thrones and being like, okay, well, now who's got the ship?
Right.
They built it together, which is what I was telling you before was a huge thing that I wanted. I wanted someone to build the ship with me. But then I realized at a certain point, I'm 41 years old. I have a ship. I have money. I have a platform. I have these things. Oh, I don't need someone to build the ship with me right now. I'm going to keep building it. I'm going to keep sailing it. But there is an element that I want, which is this more traditional element. I'm thinking about family. I'm thinking about, I want a woman who's really so lit up about coming up with fun, creative games for the kids, and coming up with that loves making new types of snacks and healthy snacks. And that's my partner now. She can't tell you enough how much she loves being in the kitchen and making fun things, and how making snacks for all the kids' birthdays and designing their own little cake. Like, that's the kind of stuff that lights her up. And I find that so attractive. But when I was 30 years old and I was still insecure about whether or not I could build my own empire, my own kingdom for myself, I wasn't looking for someone who had that personality type. I was looking for someone who was going to get in the trenches and build this kingdom with me.
Okay, so this brings me to the question, when it comes to the women that did dedicate so much of their life to building that ship, and now they can't find a partner. And I'm sure you don't actually have the answer. It's like, what is the solution or antidote for them actually finding someone to do life with?
Okay. This is a really great question, because I think there are a lot of women, and I speak to a lot of women who are in this place where they focused on their career. They're in their late 30s and they're going, I want family. And I can feel that pressure in that time. And so first, you have to identify what you want. What kind of relationship do you want? Truly. Be very honest about it, because just the fact that you have spent 15 years in a certain mode where you are the boss babe archetype, and so you are CEO energy. By the way, typically that means they've been more in their masculine and building from their masculine. Oftentimes, that means there's an underdeveloped feminine aspect of themselves, and they have not figured out how to bring that and lead with that in relationship. That's number one. And so if you want a relationship in which you are the breadwinner, you are the CEO, you stay in that seat, and you attract a man who is more in his feminine, in the receivership, who's maybe the stay-at-home dad or the whatever, that's possible too. You have to decide if that's what you want. Most women, when interviewed about this, don't want that. They want a man to be protector provider, and that includes financially. So if you have built a very successful business for yourself and you want a man who is more successful financially, you've already limited the pool significantly. So is that actually what you want? I don't know. You got to ask that question. Or is that just a default mechanism in your head of what you think you should have? And so these are the types of questions. And so let's just say that a woman, as a hypothetical, wants to be stay-at-home wife, wants to take care of the kids, wants to switch out of boss babe and really play mom in that way, at least for a while. Mm-hmm. Amazing. So now put yourself in the shoes of the man that you would need to attract to make that a reality. So you need a man who is willing to be in the protector provider, meaning they're probably the one who's going to be earning the money at that time while you're staying at home. And while they're in that protector provider, they want what? I'm going to ask you now. If you are going to be providing financially and you're going to be kind of holding that masculine container in your family dynamic, what do you want from a partner?
I want a partner that's able to be the leader of the household, taking care of the kids, setting the schedules for the kids, cooking, cleaning, that type of thing.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So in that case, you're looking for someone who can run the household.
Yeah.
And you provide the resources for the household to run, and you run your business.
Right.
Okay, great. So now,
for me personally, I'm not even saying that I wouldn't touch it at all. I would still have a hand in that, but she's leading this.
Right, 100%. There's people love to make it very black and white. And there's no, of course there's overlap.
She's leading this. I'm leading this. I'm out there making the money, bringing home the bread, fighting for us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And so for a woman who has been the CEO to then surrender into a man's leadership to provide and make those decisions over here, to run a household that does not reward her energy in the same way that she's been used to for 15 years, that's a very different thing. That's a huge shift. Mm-hmm. You don't get the same validation. You don't see the same numbers in the bank account. You don't see the things that you used to associate as success or I'm doing a good job. Mm. And I think that the energy needed to attract a man who wants to be that provider, typically what I've seen is they don't want it to be a fight.
Right.
As a very successful, I mean, multi-millionaire, who he said, so he's worth so much money, and he's dating a woman from South America who's a hairdresser.
Okay.
And he was talking about it, and he said, honestly, I deal with such sharks all day, such alpha, both men and women all day. Coming home, I don't want it to feel like another boardroom. I don't want that energy. I don't want that fire. I come home, she just wants to love me. She's so soft and nurturing, and it's just us. And she loves me up and nourishes me. And I go back into the world and I bring my fire and I deal with the sharks, and I come back and I can soften because she's soft. And now you're nodding your head. And I take that to mean that there's a part of you that resonates on a deep level with that. Yeah. And
100%.
And so that's the partner I've attracted for myself. And I think the majority of men would actually say the same thing. If they've gotten to a place where they can provide and they are out in the world dealing with the masculine energy of business all day long, they want to come home to the warm embrace of feminine energy. Mm-hmm. And again, if a woman has built something in this environment, typically they've overemphasized their masculine energy and haven't had the reps of what it means to be in their feminine, leading from the feminine. Mm-hmm. Because by the way, this isn't lead, you can lead from feminine energy. Don't make a mistake about that. So leading from the feminine instead of the masculine. A lot of women haven't put in the reps on how to do that. And that's all it is. It's just experience. So you could learn it. My advice to these women is, what does that actually mean? If you want your man to be in his masculine, you need to understand how to drop into your feminine deeply. And that's going to take some learning and unlearning if you've spent 15, 20 years in a corporate environment leading from your masculine energy.
That resonates. That resonates. Just getting those reps back in.
Yeah. And again, coming back to, where do you have the safety to do that? Where do you have the safety to be with a man who, and you can say, hey, I have spent 15 years building my business. I've been primarily in my masculine energy. It's scary for me to step into a more feminine role. It's scary for me to let someone else lead me. It's scary for me to not know how to lead in this new way. Mm-hmm. I want to let you know that it's my intention to do it. And I want your help in doing that so that we can do it together. Finding the relationship where you're safe enough to say that and make your transition into a more feminine leadership role in your family a known thing that your partner is helping you with. Mm-hmm. That's the type of relationship I encourage people to find.
Yeah, I mean, just hearing that brings the guard down. I know I'm thinking from my perspective. I don't know how everybody else is feeling, but for me, just hearing that, it's like, okay, I can work with that. Mm-hmm. You know, even if you have been leading this way and you're great in all these other ways, you can work with that because it's something you can work on together.
Absolutely. 100%. And that's how we grow together.
Yeah.
Like, what is the point of a relationship if we can't grow together? And so I've been in the relationships where I look back on it now and I realize, wow, she was a boss babe. Mm-hmm. And I didn't create enough safety for her. She wanted to surrender and become mom. But using the ship analogy from the Value of Others book, I didn't create enough safety on my ship. It wasn't big enough. It wasn't whatever for her to go, okay, I give up my old identity and I hop on. I didn't create the safety necessary for her. And that's where I can take ownership of it. Yes, did that mean that everything became a fight and she pushed back on everything and she emasculated and she argued and all of these things. She used her masculine energy to combat mine. Absolutely. Sure. But ultimately, what was underneath that?
Right. Where did I play a role?
Was a woman who wanted to drop into her feminine, but did not feel the safety of my offering of masculine. And had we been able to have this language around it, I think it would have definitely gone very differently. There had been a more open communication. There would have been the ability for her to say, I don't trust in this and it's triggering my defense mechanisms. And we could have that type of dialogue instead of me sitting around with my friends, calling them up and being like, everything's a fight.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's a fight. I'm trying to lead. I'm getting pushback on everything. That's all I saw at the time. I didn't have the awareness to see something deeper underneath that.
Right. Awareness precedes choice.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're getting towards the end. But before I ask, I have two more questions for you. You had very quickly mentioned, hopefully this doesn't get cut up in a certain way. I completely understand. Have I ever cut up a clip of yours where it might have been perceived wrong? Because I know I've posted something and then I've seen like the heat in the comments. And, it's never my intention to do that.
No, but, you have not, but I've posted certain things or I've shared things. And it's funny because I'll say in a video, for example, I just read this book and it presented this point, which I think is really interesting. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think? And people will ignore the whole thing and they will basically comment as if it's my idea that I'm presenting, as if I'm the one saying this thing, I'm the one teaching. They just don't take the time to even read a caption or the thing, and they just make these assumptions. And when that happens enough times, you become like, oh God, I know that anytime I touch on something that is highly emotionally charged, it's going to upset people.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. It doesn't matter how you cut it up. And I'm thinking the last experience I had of it was I was on another podcast and I was asked a lot of questions by this woman whose entire audience is really the goddess type, that's flowy, and they self-identify as being goddesses or priestesses or that sort of thing, right? It's a specific thing. And I think people will know this. And I said and shared how I am done dating inside of the spiritual community. I was done. If you have goddess or priestess in your profile, I'm out before it even starts. And so it led to a lot of conversations and some very specifics around dating and my experiences and preferences. And I got absolutely destroyed.
Really?
Absolutely destroyed in the comments of the YouTube. And I went back and I listened to it with my girlfriend, my current girlfriend, and we listened to it. And I went, I actually stand behind everything I said. I don't even understand how people are drawing in all of the, they're making it into this thing that I just can't quite understand. And so the podcast host also re-listened to it and was like, yeah, I don't understand why people are freaking out. And it's centered around this one piece, which I'll share with you, which was I shared how I wanted my queen. At the time of the recording of the podcast, I was single and I just really wanted my person to start a family with. Mm. I also shared how I wasn't being celibate until I met that person. Mm-hmm. I was open and willing to engage sexually with someone I had a connection with, even if I knew it wasn't going to be a long-term thing. I would communicate it. I would say, hey, I don't see there being a long-term potential here. I just don't feel that, but I am attracted to you. There's a vibe. If you want to pursue this on a more like fling kind of thing, I'm very open to that. And I give them the choice. I got destroyed for that because people take that as being somehow out of integrity or inauthentic.
Mm-hmm.
The third piece was I admitted that I think it's harder for women to have sex without getting their feelings involved.
Mm-hmm.
But I also get my feelings involved. You're a caring, heart-centered dude. I imagine you also, if you're going to sleep with someone, like you care. Yeah. But I do think biologically, there is something different about a woman having sex than a man having sex that makes it harder and the feelings get attached.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that I admitted that I know that, I still am willing to have sex with someone if I know that it's not a long-term potential, while simultaneously holding hope that I'll meet my queen. These different data points all got taken to mean that basically I am some sort of unconscious fuckboy who doesn't know what I want and just uses women and pretends like he wants. But ultimately what was underneath that was a lot of hurt women who have been in the situation of a man who says he wants something deep, sleeps with them, and goes, yeah, it's not the thing. Mm-hmm. And that wounding and that trigger around that is so deep that there's this projection onto, well, any man who says they want their queen shouldn't be fucking around with anyone who's not their queen, or at least potentially could be. And I just don't think those things are the same. And so that's the last example I can give of where I went, wow. And even after all these years, it still sucks when you feel like you're being misconstrued in these ways. Yeah. So that's the last example I could give of just, man, that was hard to just see me portrayed in a certain way.
Yeah. You wrote on a post, close but not quite right. This is the truth I feel when I look in your eyes. Harsh, but not as cruel as a lie. I'd rather choose to let you go than to pretend that you are mine. I want you to speak on that.
Man.
Because, I have felt that way in relationships. And yeah, you say it's harsh, but not as cruel as a lie. And I think it's so much better to be honest, even if it's going to hurt. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I want you to speak on it.
Yeah, I think that there were so many times in which I felt a connection. I got excited. We explored that connection and I realized, this is not it. That's dating. That's normal. But when the other person still feels like you could be that person, and you know it's not, at that point, I feel it is out of integrity for me to keep building something with someone without opening up that I've already made a decision. If you don't know, that's dating. That's fine. Be in the exploration. Go on more dates, and spend more time. But if you know this is not a long-term thing for me, at least let them know. Be respectful of their heart. Be respectful of their time and their energy. And they may make the decision, yeah, I agree with you. Cool. Let's part ways. Or I agree with you, but we're having fun. Let's date other people while we still just, be friends with benefits, booty calls, just like whatever. It doesn't have to, every person that you are sleeping with doesn't have to be a long-term potential. But I do think that there are too many people in dynamics where they're afraid to be honest and say, this isn't it for me. And that leads to a lot more pain when you let it go on.
Do you think that there's people who are in that dynamic who that truly don't know that's actually how they feel.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
Because I've definitely been that person where looking back, I'm like, no, that wasn't the one. But with being in it, I'm like, well, maybe they could be.
Mhm. I find that the idea of the one is not a real idea. I don't think that that's a healthy concept anyway. And believe me, I've bought into that at times, but I think that there are probably 1 million people on this planet that you could have a really loving, amazing life with. And at a certain point, it's a choice. At a certain point, you find one of those million and you say, I choose you. I choose to make this work with you. I choose to go through the fire with you. And it's not because they are the one, it's because they are the one that you chose. And so that's a big part of it. I think that another part of this is that people are just so scared to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so people would rather be in something that's unclear than be by themselves. But if you actually enjoy your own company, if you enjoy being alone, if you don't need someone else to complete you, then I think it is a easier thing to let someone go when it's not quite right.
Yeah.
And then the final thing I'll say about this is, to your point, it's very possible to not know if someone is that person and to have that inner conflict of are they or aren't they? In my experience, if you have to talk yourself into it, it's not it. At the end of the day, the person who is it is the one where you can't talk yourself out of it. And you try. You're like, but you just, there's something about it. It just is. It just is. There's an isness to it. And that's been my experience. And even if it's not is forever, the person that's right for you is not someone you have to talk yourself into dating.
Yeah. That resonates. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about, before my last question, I want to just dive into, you wrote a poem called Mannequin Dream.
A Mannequin's Dream, yeah.
Yeah, A Mannequin's Dream. And you're talking about identity, right? Not plastic?
Yeah, that poem came from dating a celebrity. And
From dating a celebrity?
I dated a celebrity and entered into a world of PR and persona. And she couldn't say certain things. She wasn't allowed to speak on certain subjects. She wasn't allowed to XYZ, you name it. There's a certain way she had to look. There was a certain way she had to be. And that was very challenging for me. And so after we broke up, I questioned whether or not what I experienced was real, the version of her that I got, or the version of her that she was to everybody else was real, because they weren't the same. And so it gave me this idea that I dated a mannequin who put on this whole plastic, lived a plastic life.
Wow. Had no idea it was about celebrity. I was thinking more about, the epidemic of plastic surgeries and all this other stuff.
Well, it relates to that, right? Yeah. It's the idea of there's a line in that poem that says, plastic attention was better than when nobody noticed me there, and plastic love was better than thinking nobody cared. And so it's this idea that for some people, they would rather have fake friendships and fake eyelashes and fake lips or whatever, because they think that it's less lonely. And that if they would let themselves be really, truly authentic, that they would be rejected for it. And I think that that was very sad for me, because that poem took me months to write, because I started it from an angry place. I was mad and I went, she's so fake, blah, blah, blah. And so that was the idea of it, she's a mannequin. But I only got maybe 8 lines into that poem before I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't write anymore from that place of anger. And I went and was healing. I was in a cabin in the woods by myself every day, really processing the breakup. And at a certain point I went, you know what? How hard must it be to live a life where you can't be yourself? How hard must that be? How much must it hurt to not know if you were really yourself? Would the people around you still be there? That must be a really hard place to be. And so that place of compassion in me allowed me to finish the poem.
Yeah, it sounds like a prison.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, before
where did you see that poem, by the way?
Huh?
Where is that poem?
I saw it on your Instagram.
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was on my Instagram.
Yeah, you haven't been there in a while.
I haven't been there in a while.
Yeah, it's on there.
Got it. Well, it's a longer piece. If you want, I can do it. If you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I have that one memorized.
Okay, absolutely. It was again, I just focused on things that like, okay, this really resonated.
Yeah, so now people have the backstory to this poem, and you'll get to hear the whole thing, because I don't think it was the entire thing.
Okay, awesome.
All right, everyone take a nice deep inhale. I once fell in love with a mannequin with a voice of pure gold to go with her plastic skin. So when she told me she loved me, I dove right in, chose to live in her world and try to fit in. At first, things were perfect. She lit up my life. We danced through the day, make love through the night. Rarely did we argue, and if we ever did fight, she'd just give me a plastic smile, tell me things are all right. And I believed her. You'd understand if you'd seen her. This manicured mannequin had spent her life practicing manufacturing smiles no matter what might be happening. And so while it wasn't entirely true, it wasn't entirely fake. To hide how you feel was just the way she was raised. By plastic parents who wanted a plastic daughter, who never disobeyed her mother and never questioned her father. Got good grades in plastic school, behaved in plastic church, never complained about the pain even when it really hurt. And after years, those tears stopped flowing as her plastic walls were put in place. She built a beautiful plastic life to match the plastic smile on her plastic face. She bought a plastic house with plastic friends, had plastic parties to celebrate plastic wins. She had a plastic fence. She kept others out until she let me in. And I loved her as deep as I could. Kept telling her I saw her the way I wished that she would. I see you, I said. I see you, I see your soul, and I won't leave you, I said, unless you ask me to go. You don't need your protection anymore. You don't need your plastic parts, because I'm a man who understands even plastic mannequins have very real hearts. And that's when she saw me. Felt safety, a safe space to simply be. And so that night, as we were drifting to sleep, she nuzzled real close, gave me a kiss on the cheek, whispered in my ear, so soft and so sweet, I don't want to be plastic anymore. Often I'm talking and I found myself watching out of my body like I'm caught in a box and I don't know how to break free. Because I was taught I was rotten, thought I'd be forgotten unless I bought into this idea of who I needed to be. So I put on the plastic eyelashes and the plastic hair, plastic nails to match the makeup I wear, and plastic attention was better than when nobody noticed me there, and plastic love was better than thinking nobody cared. But there's something about the way you look at me that makes me feel like I actually want to be seen, but I'm afraid of what that actually might mean. I've been plastic so long, I don't know the real me. And she started to cry, and they were not plastic tears. And she started to share, and they were not plastic fears. And so I held her for days, for weeks, and for months as she started to open all these parts that were once closed, locked, thrown away the key, thought she couldn't be hurt in places she couldn't be seen. But that's just a lie they tell you when they sell you a mannequin's dream. A whimsical, nonsensical belief that you're invincible if you pretend the skin you're in is magically impenetrable. That's just a lie they sell you when they tell you a mannequin's dream. Because feeling numb is not the same thing as feeling nothing. And so when I first saw her, I knew I saw something special, something real. She had lived the life of a mannequin, but she wanted to feel. And so that's exactly what we did. Poured love into all the places we had previously hid. She saw me happy. She saw me sad. I saw her scared. I saw her mad. And eventually I saw a mom and she saw a dad so proud to be parents of this little family we had. Because they weren't plastic kids. Because they weren't raised in a plastic home. They were celebrated and praised till they were grown with kids of their own. And if there's a moral to these stories, it's that there's no such thing as plastic love. When you open your heart to somebody, it's always the real stuff. And real love can get through fake skin and turn plastic beginnings into fairy tale ends. That's what I learned from that time when I once fell in love with a mannequin.
Beautiful.
Thanks, man.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah, and that's just, I use my poetry to process.
Yeah.
And so it started from an angry place that gave me an idea. I moved into a space of compassion and I didn't know how to end it. But eventually I realized my art is also where I go to let my dreams live on. And so I gave it a happy ending, the fairy tale ending that it doesn't get in this real life. And that gave me the conclusion to the poem.
I told you this before in the last interview, but I also think you're a cooler version. You're the male Taylor Swift.
Well, now with my AI music, there it's coming.
No, but I love it. Like processing your trauma through poetry is great. It's great. And I think it's really, it impacts people. It's another outlet for yourself, but other people as well. So I have one final question, and it's about your book.
Okay.
And you kind of already touched on it a little bit, but first of all, where can people find you online, and where are they going to be able to buy the book?
AdamRoa.com, ADAMROA.com. And then Amazon, all the places that you can get a book. Okay. And I do have a social media. I haven't been using it much right now, but I will be, especially in the lead up to the book. I plan to share a lot of the poetry from the book itself. And that's Adam.Roa on Instagram. I have a YouTube channel where I go into deeper teachings. So yeah, a lot of that stuff.
And it's all going to be linked also below. So check them out. What do you hope people feel after reading the book? Like not what they think, but not even what they learn. Like, what do you hope they feel?
That they're not alone. I want people to realize that all of their messy, uncertain, uncool, ugly cry selves, we all go through that. It's very human. And so I hope that by putting myself on display through these very intimate journal entries and poems, that they can see that even someone like me on being interviewed on podcasts and having a book out, I don't have it figured out. Everything I'm sharing right now is just the current consciousness that I have, what I believe in this moment, to the best of my ability, expressed in a way that I hope is helpful, but is definitely honest.
Love that. And even from the one little story that you shared from the book, it's already given me more of a like, damn, I can be more vulnerable myself. So I know that the book's going to be a treat for everybody. So I appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for sitting down with me. This one's been good.
Yeah, this is a long one. We got it. We went
Yeah.
all over the place, and I always appreciate the depth of your questions, and that's why I definitely wanted to make sure while I was in Austin that we did another one. And yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. All right, we're out.
This is the Sacred Thomas Podcast.